Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann Report for today, Monday, January 14th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me in studio is my co-host, my son, Joe Hagmann. And folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased, uncensored news, analysis, information you need to know in these perilous times. I suppose the run-up to the Second American Revolution. Joe, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here, back in studio. We don't have any guests today. We had a great, I'd say the last three shows. Nathan Leal was with us Thursday. Steve Quayle and his Insider Financial V this Friday. And last night was Tom Horn with Steve Quayle. All three were fantastic shows.
I have to say, last night broke all sorts of records with Blog Talk Radio, with other radio stations and numbers. They're still coming in. They're still trying to, count the beans on those. But it was an incredible show last night. That's for sure. But folks, you can find us at our home base at HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com. Also, CanadaFreePress.com as well. Our colleagues to the north and our anchor to the north. We can also watch us as we simulcast in high-definition video on the Christians United Broadcasting Network, and we want to thank you for joining us and your belief and trust in us each and every day. What we try to do here, we try to figure out exactly where we're at, what's going on, and we try to do so with integrity, with honesty, without the hype, without the hysteria. And I've noticed, of late, there is so much hysteria. There is so much knee-jerk reaction. It seems like if everyone was a rubber band, just imagine the rubber bands being pulled to the max, before breaking. And that's how everyone is, at least everyone who's paying attention.
Yeah, you can see it in the public and the videos that are put out by different people, the outrage, the anger, and on both sides, really, whether common sense arguments or not. Things are going from slow to extremely radical very fast.
Yeah, and
people calling for death of other people, the death of birthers, the people who want to take the guns, and you got the people freaking out who are afraid guns are going to be taken, saying they're going to start killing people. And we're talking about people who've had careers in news and other areas of communications and media, and there just seems to be no end in sight, almost to the point where this is moving so fast they're trying to hide something else that's going on that we're not seeing yet. But
well, look, we have to watch all fronts, and I know you brought that up earlier. I know that you're saying, well, geez, what else is going on? Well, I don't know if these events are necessarily exclusive to each other, so I think that they can all happen at the same time, and they all are happening at the same time. What I'd like to know, and I want to thank Marianne, too, for her program assessments and what have you, and suggestions, but I'd like to hear from we both would, in fact, we were talking about this before the show, we would like to hear specifically from law enforcement officers, active, preferably, military, active, preferably. And I know that our show is blocked in a lot of military, a lot of .mil addresses, or from a lot of, I shouldn't say that, from a lot of IP addresses on military bases, for reasons that we still don't quite understand. But we'd like to hear from you people, from the people on the ground, even within the and I'd like to be able to, somehow to ensure that you're active, or that you're associated, that you are in fact who you say you are. I don't know how we do that, but we'll figure out a way. But kind of gauge sentiment, because you've got on one hand Farrakhan calling for a civil war or race riots, I should say. You've got Obama that's pushing the envelope as a tyrant, as an imperial president, King George. I mean, I've heard it said, and I have to believe this. If we were the founding fathers, we'd be shooting already. And isn't that true? I mean,
I don't know.
I think it is. How far do you have to be pushed as a people?
Far.
Well,
you're the threshold for. I mean, we have to remain vigilant.
yes,
We have to remain on guard.
yes.
We cannot jump the gun. I mean, that's what they want. That's what they're looking for.
Well, I understand that, but you've got more weapons out there in the hands of people. I just saw this statistic. The United States. Let me see here. I'm not sure. I'm not going to bring it up, or I'm not sure I can bring it up. But there were more handgun sales. We had more guns out there in the hands of the American people than the Chinese and Indian armies combined. So if you think about that, that's a lot of guns. Now you've got Obama threatening to, really threatening an attack on the Second Amendment.
And I have that audio queued up. That's one of the first things I saw today in the news. Obama, some gun control measures I can accomplish through executive.
But this is weasel talk, though. Go ahead and play that. But listen to the weasel talk on this.
My understanding is the Vice President's going to provide a range of steps that we can take to reduce gun violence. Some of them will require legislation. Some of them I can accomplish through executive action. And so I'll be reviewing those today. And as I said, I'll speak in more detail to what we're going to go ahead and propose later in the week. But I'm confident that there are some steps that we can take that don't require legislation and that are within my authority as president. And where you get a step that has the opportunity to reduce the possibility of gun violence, then I want to go ahead and take it. Well, I think, for example, how we are gathering data, for example, on guns that fall into the hands of criminals, and how we track that more effectively. There may be some steps that we can take administratively as opposed through legislation. As far as people lining up and purchasing more guns, I think that we've seen for some time now that those who oppose any common sense gun control or gun safety measures have a pretty effective way of ginning up fear on the part of gun owners that somehow the federal government's about to take all your guns away. And that there's probably an economic element to that. It obviously is good for business, but I think that those of us who look at this problem have repeatedly said that responsible gun owners, people who have a gun for protection, for hunting, for sportsmen.
Now, here are the weasel words that I'm going to point out. If you noticed, he starts out by saying there's some, there's some things he can do via Second Amendment or via executive orders. He called them executive action. That's what he said, executive action. Which, think about executive action for a moment, that phrase, because executive action and executive orders are two different things. But let's not parse words right now. When he said we can do things through executive orders, someone in the press said, well, specifically what? I'm paraphrasing now, of course. Then he comes back and he says, well, we can change the way we collect data. Now, talk about a disingenuous answer, and an answer that was, it didn't match the nature of the question, because what Obama was starting out talking about was controlling guns.
Mm-hmm. And we have some news out of New York to provide some examples of what you mean by controlling data, or what I think he means by controlling data.
But see, right, and we have to get into that, because the whole show is not going to be about guns and what have you. But this is one of maybe this is one leg of a stool here, of a table, and I think it's an important leg, because all of these are going to be happening at the same time. But he went off after he was questioned about this by a reporter, and said, well, we can change the way the data is collected. Well, you don't need an executive order to do that. That's done through administrative means, not by any type of executive order. So that answer was a bogus answer to that question. And then he started, and notice how he threw in there fear and, of course, the economic component to this. So the fear is being spread so people can make money. Boy, we get accused of that all the time. I'm not sure how much, I'm not sure why, but we do.
Spreading fear?
Right. You're spreading fear so we can make money. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, listen to this. In New York, they are going to pass their first gun bill since the Sandy Hook shooting. A key New York Senate leader and the Assembly Speaker said they expect the state legislature to vote Monday to enact what would be the nation's first gun control measure following last month's school shooting. They go on to say how excited they are. They are going to limit magazines to 7 bullets, and they also are going to enact more stringent background checks for sales. Other elements pushed by Republicans would refine a mental health law to make it easier to confine people determined to be a threat to themselves or others.
But do you realize that it was
going to determine that they're a threat? First of all, I mean, this is crazy. We have Rahm Emanuel in Chicago. I have the audio of him saying we need to take the people out of the debate of the Second Amendment.
Okay, that's just ridiculous. But look, the lack of interface between HIPAA or between the medical records or psychiatric records and people buying a gun was implemented by Bill Clinton through HIPAA. In other words, it was caused by a Democratic. I mean, if you want to blame Republicans, or if you want to go to Democrats and Republicans, it was through Clinton, the Clinton initiative, that took that out of the equation. So, if anyone is to blame, it's their own party. If we're gonna adhere to party politics, but here we're not going to adhere to party politics. We're going to just blame the people that need to be blamed, regardless of party.
It's the American people that don't understand what is happening. That's happened throughout history. It continues to happen, and it's happening here.
Yeah, and when I started out the show, I just want to mention this. Americans have purchased enough guns in the last 2 months to equip the entire Chinese and Indian armies combined. That's a staggering statistic. And folks, if you don't think that if that is a dot, a huge dot, man, I'll tell you, it is a huge dot. And I'm just I'm concerned as to where this is going. I don't know. And you mentioned, Joe, about New York.
Yes.
With the taking from a magazine of 10 down to a magazine of 7.
And we have Mayor
about this though.
Mayor Bloomberg urging Obama to defy Congress to implement gun control measures through executive actions. We have a White House petition that has been signed by 54,000 Mexican citizens for gun control in America.
I laughed when I heard that. Can you imagine?
And then we have Harry Reid, shoots down likelihood of assault weapons ban.
Harry Reid shoots down likelihood.
Yeah, this is what he said.
Okay, all right.
And you got to think where he's from. He's from Nevada.
Right.
They're not going to put up with that.
Well, okay.
And we have Wyoming passing laws saying they'll arrest any federal agents in their jurisdiction who try to come and implement gun control measures.
Good for them. But let's go back to the New York issue about the magazines from 10 to 7. Does this mean that if you have a semi-automatic pistol, for example, that carries, I don't know, 12, 17, 16...
Yes, and there's a whole laundry list of things that they go through here that they want.
So they're not only banning... So in other words, you could be breaking the law by carrying your weapon that you bought 2 months ago or a month ago. Okay.
You don't need 10 bullets to kill a deer, according to Cuomo.
Well, of course not, and we all know. And Walter Williams, I love the guy. Folks, if you haven't heard of Walter Williams, you know he's an older. I think he was a college professor. He used to sit in for Rush quite often. And Dr. Walter Williams, he had come out and he explained. Of course, the Second Amendment is not for hunting. I understand what the Second Amendment's for. The Second Amendment is to protect yourself against the tyranny of government. Period. End of story.
And I went over quotes from the Founding Fathers not too long ago, where they talked about, I mean, you go through their quotes, what is a well-regulated militia? And it is the people. The militia is the citizens of the United States. Well, they shall be armed, and that shall not be infringed. There is no way around it. There's no language you can use to try to change shall not be infringed. It's there, regulated. Try to take it down.
But regulated too means something different. When they say regulated, back then, I mean, I think Madison, who was in the Federalist Papers, 46 of the Federalist Papers, Madison, who was not really keen on gun ownership, even admitted. I believe it was Madison. I'm going from memory here. Even admitted, look, we need this. So this has to be untouched and. Of course, they got into the definition of the terms: well-regulated militia, what regulated means, what militia meant, and so on. And it was just the people. But again, I don't want to get too deep into this because there's so much more that we have to do. But know that this is a tripwire here. That I believe you want chaos. The communists want chaos and power. What better way? What better way? Mm-hmm. Than this. I mean, as part of maybe a four-pronged table or four-legged table. This is one of the legs. You kick the legs of the Second Amendment out, then the first, and then you're going to get into the economic situation, which we have to get into, and then something you mentioned earlier, and we can get into this if as the program unfolds here, but is there something going on a physical plane with the earth and with the sky, with the stars and the sun and the moon and the heavens and the earth? Is there something going on? Because yesterday we had Tom Horn on, and folks, if you didn't hear that program, I got to tell you something. If you listen to that, now be honest with me. Unless you're like really, 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 really knowledgeable. Did you really understand from the starting gate of what he was talking about? Now, look, I love Tom Horn and I love Steve Quayle, but did you understand it? I mean, I did. I'm not in the chat room, so I don't know, but
and a lot of people did. From what I was reading, okay. They had a good understanding of the background of a lot of that.
I was slow on the uptake, but by the end of the show, I understood what he was talking about. It was like a light bulb came on at the end of the show. And then I thought, oh, wow, okay, now putting all this together, now I get it. So if you start out by listening to that program and you get frustrated, you turn it off, you say, well, what are these people talking about? And how does that relate to today? I mean, come on, are you guys serious? What do you have peyote there in the studio?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to listen to the whole thing, and then as it gets tied together, it's like, oh, okay, now I understand. Kind of like with Standeo sometimes. It's these guys. To me, I mean, it's a good thing. I'm not like I could never be like a physics professor or whatever. I could barely, I mean, that's laughable. But you talk about super intelligent and the knowledge behind this. The knowledge of Standale, the knowledge of Tom Horn, and the research they've conducted and stuff. Wow! But anyway, but could there be something on a interplanetary? I'm not talking about UFOs or Sasquatch or whatever. I'm talking about maybe subtle Earth changes taking place. Or
we have. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you didn't hear about this. There's new booms and noises being heard throughout the world especially in Indiana, Kentucky area, coming from the sky.
Yeah, I mean, what's that all about, really? Should we be concerned about this?
Yes, we should be very concerned about this.
Okay. And if so, what are they? I mean, what is taking place? Are these the signs in the heavens and on the earth that accompany the last days, or is this just growing pains? Not labor pains, but growing pains. Just curious. Just curious. I'm just asking.
Well, I don't think that's something a man can tell you for sure one way or another. That's something you need to find out for yourself.
But all of these together, all these combined. If you think about this, all of these combined, and you think, well, because I've gotten emails and folks, please, I'm still working on emails from last week. Just please have patience with me. But I read them all. It's just I haven't had a chance to respond to many. What we're trying to do is connect all the dots, and it's really we're trying to make sure while their government's hanging the trinket of gun control in front of us that we're not missing something else. And we do have to get into the suspicious deaths as well. On our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com, if you just go to click on watch the video that's on there, I just put it up. Where I was on Alex Jones back before his appearance on Piers Morgan, and InfoWars put together this montage of things I said, and then a week or two later, what came out. It's a 2-minute video, 2.5 minute video. Go ahead and watch that if you have the opportunity, and share that, because I think that says a lot. I think it adds validity to my contact. I know that people are out there attempting to discredit, that whole thing. Well, that's fine, but leave it up to you. I'll leave it up to you. But if you think that it has merit, go ahead and spread that around a little bit to your people, to the people that you know, and let them make their own assessment. But I think what we're seeing right now is, what would you call it, Joe? Just a lot of diversion, deception, among other things. Mm-hmm. We're actually getting, but watch. See, here's the other thing, and so many people have written to me about these deaths of the Russian, goodness.
Yeah, the YouTube man.
Yeah,
that was it. The FSP.
Yeah, right before the show, my entire outlook, or not outlook, but my Word program crashed. So I'm trying to pull it up here.
All right. Well, I want to continue on talking about guns here. Rahm Emanuel and Periwinkle, I guess, team up on tougher gun rules and sentences. Now, this is from today. Rahm Emanuel wants to broaden the requirement for reporting the loss, theft, sale, or transfer of firearms to all gun owners in Cook County, and double the jail time for an array of gun violations to stop the bloodbath in the Chicago streets.
And by the way, this is for you people who say, well, gee, I lost my guns in a boating accident, or, gee, and I see that all the time with the LOL, or, these people think that they can get around this by saying, I don't know, officer, I had my gun in the boat, and, it just fell over and didn't report it. That's what this is for.
Yeah, it says, only time will tell whether the tag team approach with Cook County will succeed in stopping the flow of illegal guns into Chicago. The ordinance would require all firearm owners, not just the holders of city firearm permits, to report the loss, theft, destruction, sale, or transfer of a firearm to both the Chicago Police Department and the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Violations would face up to 6 months in jail. That's double the jail time for a reporting requirement that now applies to only permit holders. For the first time, Cook County would impose a similar reporting requirement. Emanuel also wants to double the maximum jail time to 6 months for possession of a firearm without a permit, possession of assault weapons, and other firearms that cannot be registered in Chicago, and for sale or possession of high-capacity magazines and metal-piercing bullets. It goes on to talk about how big of an effect this could have on their violence, as they are the most violent gun city in the United States, with over 500 deaths last year. But it's one of the most gun-restricted cities in the world already. So
right.
It goes on to say, it requires firearms owners to report the make, model, serial number of the lost, stolen, sold, transferred, or destroyed firearms to the sheriff within 48 hours. And if you do not, you will be facing a $1,000 fine and up to 6 months in prison.
You know, I want to, if I can, I'm going to just read this, Joe, because I think this is the backdrop, really, as to what we're facing. And folks, please listen carefully to this. This is from a soldier, somebody who knows war. He says, I'm a soldier. I know what war looks like, what it sounds like, what it smells like, what it feels like in my soul. I stand today in the twilight of my nation's grace, looking into the darkness of impending war. My sleep is troubled, knowing what awaits, yet the ignorant and the true believers sleep easily in their delusions. And I'm saddened by it. Boy, isn't that like us? Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that like us? Okay. Daily, I see Black Hawk and Apache helicopters flying over my city, the military vehicles which appear so frequently now on our roads, often with the guns up, in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. And I know why they prepare. It's not far off. Nightly, I hear the report of gunfire near my home. The noise angry men make as they prepare to boil over. These aren't soldiers. They are but angry men. And though I share their well-justified anger, I'm cautious with them, for they are not disciplined, and they know not the face of war, nor the burdens it imposes upon the mind, the soul, the body. Because of this, they are dangerous, and I'm saddened by this. The dangerous men should roam the streets near my home, full of anger and the lust for vengeance. And again, think about that, and think about the people who say how angry they are. And he says, all about me are these ceaseless murmurs of soulless politicians and media propagandists who wear their agendas on their sleeves as a badge of superiority, and the boundless echoes of their contrived message assaults me from all sides, even repeated from the mouths of dear friends, and I am saddened by it. I bear witness to the fact that throughout my lifetime, the lifeblood of my republic has been drained away by greedy and self-serving men from high to low, who contrive not but deception against their neighbors and countrymen, who fail to consider that their children and mine share the same fate, the same future, and I am saddened by it. But I am a soldier, and I know what must be done. And so I shall put away my sadness, and I shall harness up the bitter steed of war, and gird myself up for the battle. I shall ride out to meet the enemies of liberty, not in a rage, not for anger's sake, or the hope of vengeance, but because I swore an oath before God to jealously guard our republic and its constitution against all enemies. Him I shall not disappoint, for he is my hope and my trust. Therefore, as much as my soul laments against the harsh truth before me, I make this declaration to my enemies who press me into this battle, that none shall be able to afterwards say, I did not know, you did not warn me. I do not care why you took that job with the government or why you continue to hold it. I only know that you have become Judas, and you have sold yourself to an oppressive state. Your government office buildings and vehicles are part of the battlefield, and as a soldier, I shall act accordingly. I don't care why, as a journalist, you choose to spin and corrupt the news rather than report the plain truth and let the people judge for themselves. I only know that you have violated the public trust in the most vile and seditious manner, and thus your homes, your offices, your studios, your vehicles, and any other place you may find yourself are part of the battlefield, and as a soldier I shall act accordingly. I don't care why you signed that union card. I only know that you pay dues to a communist organization which conducts treasonous works against my Republic Daily. And so your union hall and your work sites are part of the battlefield, and as a soldier, I shall act accordingly. I don't care that you only voted for the traitor because you are elderly, disabled, or otherwise dependent upon government largesse. Are you so ignorant or disinterested that you could not see through their propaganda to the fact that your sustenance was assured either way? What have you gained now that the public housing areas you live in and the public facilities you depend on are now part of the battlefield? Though I'm a soldier, I can afford you little protection, for you have placed yourselves on the battlefield. I know all of these places, and all of the people are just part of the battlefield, not just because I am a soldier and have experienced a few battles and battlefields in my day, but also because our president declares that even our own home, our own homeland, our homes, they're on the battlefield. Whether we wish them to be or not, I have no choice but to believe him. It's not just that the NDAA passed. A battlefield is not defined by law. It's the profound buildup of martial power and resources across my one great nation, which tells me a battle is being prepared right here, right now. Over 2 billion rounds of ammunition procured by DHS and its sub-agencies in the past 18 months, plus machine guns in the tens of thousands, armored vehicles, combat aircraft, drones, and other implements of war being staged throughout our nation, our home. How do you explain that, except as the preparation for battle? I will fight not because I desire it, but because I cannot justify any other course of action. When the enemy attacks, you must fight, you must kill, or you will die. I smell you, my enemy. I can feel the ambush you have laid for me and my true countrymen, all about like a sticky spider's web. Yet we will not back down. And though you will kill some of us, you will not get all of us before we have finished with you. I stand here ready on the eve of battle, and I ask God why. And I ask God why I have been brought to the threshold of this battlefield. I ask God why I'm about to be thrust in when through my soldiering days, we're done, we're through. And I'm reminded that there is, by His decree, a time to kill and a time to die. Who am I to question why? That was written by a soldier about today.
Yeah. And we can look, just a quick quote here from George Washington. He said that no man should scruple or hesitate a moment to use arms in defense of so valuable a blessing as liberty, on which all good and evil of life depends, is clearly my opinion, yet arms should be the last to resort to. That was in a letter to George Mason, basically saying you don't hesitate for a moment to use them in defense.
That's right.
But it should be the last resort.
You know, we're talking now about the practical aspects of war. We're not talking about the spiritual aspects of war. Excuse me. Boy, I got to tell you, folks, there's something going around. My wife has been sick. I've been sick. My daughter's sick. It's just incredible. We've just been having this congestion and head stuff going on. I don't know if it's affected your area, but it's just a pain in the neck and nose. But anyway,
said something before the show with done it from another location.
Oh, no, that's all right. I wanted to bring you here and of course, contaminate you as well.
Another.
By the way, we're giving out free flu shots.
No, we're not.
I'm just kidding.
Another huge issue is the debt ceiling, the fiscal cliff. The White House is going to break the law and not submitting a budget. It goes to say, under the law, President Obama must submit a budget by the first Monday in February, but he has yet to meet the deadline only once. The annual budget submission is supposed to start a congressional budgeting process, but that has also been broken down. The Senate's last passed budget resolution was in 2009. Also, Ben Bernanke says, get rid of the debt ceiling. It has no practical value. Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, criticized the debt ceiling as an unusual device that can be used to prevent the United States from paying its bills.
You know something? One of the best books I've read, and I shouldn't say one of them, "The Secrets of the Federal Reserve" by Eustace Mullins. Of course, "The Naked Truth," "The Naked Capitalist." The Naked Capitalist is by W. Cleon Skousen. "The Secrets of the Federal Reserve" by Eustace Mullins. All of these are older books that you really need to get your hands on to really get to study the history behind this. But the Secrets of the Federal Reserve is especially troubling because it does kind of interface with what's going on today, but it goes back into the first name club, if you will, of the people at Jekyll Island and how the Federal Reserve was created and why it was created and why today we find ourselves in such an economic mess.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I got to say this too, folks. I don't go out much. For example, I don't go to movies. I think the last movie I went to, Titanic, maybe. I don't know. The Passion of the Christ. But anyway, Lincoln. I saw Lincoln this past weekend with my wife. Only because she was threatened. She said, if you don't, I'm gonna divorce you if you don't. Anyway. Yes, and I admit I did nod off once, okay, through that. But hey, 2.5 hours, come on,
Was it good? Was it worth it?
You know, what I was trying to do, I was really trying hard to get myself into and I don't review movies, okay, so I don't know if it was good. I was looking at it from a historical accuracy point of view, and I think it was historically accurate because when I had come back, I had done some research and looking about the amendment, the slavery amendment, but it didn't go far enough into the economic reasons why.
Okay, and I don't know, this weekend there was a lot of stories about Obama using the Lincoln Bible. There's lots of references.
And that's why I brought this up. Okay. Yeah, and Marianne brought, thank you, Marianne. Yeah, she brought this up too.
Yeah, and I talked to people about this, what happened during Lincoln's presidency. There was a civil war, and he was assassinated.
Yes, those two things we can verify. They made all the papers.
Yeah. So what's the connection? Why is Obama trying to portray himself like Abraham Lincoln?
Well,
or similar to.
And I don't recall if I said this on air or not. When Obama had one of the very few press conferences live I caught of Obama was when he was talking about I think it was like the 31st or 30th or something of December when he was talking about the debt negotiations, the fiscal cliff, and he said I'm going to be president for 4 more years, and then chuckled and said something like I hope. And it was just an odd. Folks, did you see that? You know what I'm talking about? It was just a very odd thing that when I heard that. Did anyone who saw that? Did you all get like a weird feeling about that? Well, okay, all right. But see, here's the thing. Lincoln, the fact, and I've also heard. And I'm trying to verify this through multiple sources. I've also heard where apparently Obama communicates or believes he's communicating with Lincoln. Now, I say that rather broadly. It's not the first time I heard it. I heard it from someone, from a listener, and then I heard it from someone else. And it's kind of odd how there's this where he's kind of taken on the persona of Lincoln. I don't know what that. I don't, folks. I don't know what that pretends. I don't know what kind of omen is there. I don't know what. That to me is.
Well, I did some research in the Lincoln Bible that's being used for Obama. It was used in 2008, or I'm sorry, 2009. It had 2 Bible passages marked. One was Hosea chapter 4.
Okay.
And the other one was Deuteronomy chapter 31, I want to say. And I got that from Wikipedia, so I'm not...
But when you're saying it was used for what?
The inauguration of Obama in 2009.
The Lincoln Bible was?
Yes, it was.
So why is it making news again now?
I don't know. That's according to Wikipedia.
All right. There's something very spiritually strange taking place with regard to our leaders. And if you're not, well, let me just qualify this statement. This is the following statement. We have guests come on, and we have them come on because a lot of people ask them to, ask us to bring them on. We invite them on for their opinion. A lot of times we don't agree with them necessarily. We don't have to agree with them sometimes, but do we challenge them necessarily? No, because we let them talk. We let them give us their opinion. So we have, and have you noticed we have people with opposing views, like Doc Marquis, and maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think of two opposing viewpoints, people with opposing viewpoints we've had on, but there's disagreement among our guests. But that's to give you the full picture. And the reason I want to mention that is there are a lot of different ways, different assessments out there, and we want to bring you as much as we can. This spiritual area that we're entering into right now, to me, is so palpable. Joe, I can, folks, can you feel the spiritual heaviness, the weight out there?
I definitely know something is not right. I definitely know that there is so much going on that we have no clue yet as to what is taking place behind the scenes, especially in the spiritual realm, except that things are getting bad.
Right.
We are not safe unless we are under the Lord's protection. And that protection could be going away soon. I mean, it talks in the Bible about a time where the Lord will withdraw.
You know what, Joe? I got an email today. It was a one sentence question, and it said, "Doug, do you believe that America is the mystery Babylon?" I don't know. We've had John Price come on and say, well, there are certain indicators that would suggest that America is, in fact, the mystery Babylon. I don't know how to answer that question, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how. And I say that from my heart. The only thing I can say is this. Read the Bible. Don't read someone's interpretation of the Bible. Go directly to the source. In other words, go to your King James Bible and the appropriate concordances and what have you, and read what it says. Because otherwise, you're just getting it secondhand. So read what the Bible says and make your own decisions. I cannot make those decisions for you.
Yeah, not only read the Bible, but seek the Lord and ask Him.
Right.
This is not a time to be having your soul flailing around, teetering on the edge of, the second death, which the Lord warns, Don't worry about your first death. You need to worry about the person who can take your soul.
Yeah, that's true. So,
we're, as long as we're alive, we still have opportunity. We can be forgiven, and we need to use that opportunity, because how much time is there left? Nobody knows.
No one knows.
At the rapid pace we see things moving, it could be very short for us, or not.
Well,
but who wants to take the chance? Who's going to play that Russian roulette game with your soul? Who wants to do that?
See, and I go back to that question, and all this is going to come together as, once again, as the program kind of coalesces here. All of this that we're talking about will come together. In the book, When a Nation Forgets God, it's by Erwin Lutzer, Lutzer. It's a short book. You can read it in an afternoon. It's got, maybe 150 pages to it. There's a part in here where this is ordinary heroes can make a difference. And see, the way that, and Joe and I were talking today in preparation for the show, after having, two or three back-to-back or three consecutive shows with guests, we didn't really have the time to decompress with the audience, and we need that time. But see, to me, everyone listening to this, you're an ordinary hero. I'm an ordinary hero. Joe's an ordinary. We're all ordinary heroes, and by that I mean ordinary people who will, when called, can and will make a difference. And it doesn't matter if you're infirmed, if you're listening to this in a wheelchair, if you're listening to this, at the gym when you're pumping, bench pressing 300 pounds. It doesn't matter, because you can play whatever position you are given. When God calls a man, he bids him come and die, wrote Dietrich Bonhoeffer during the dark days when the church in Germany was being Nazified. And at the age of 39, he practiced what he preached. He was hanged on the gallows and died. But the important thing is before that, he played an important position. He played his position. He did what he could. He was an ordinary hero, actually an extraordinary hero, should I say, but there were many ordinary heroes around him. So all of us in these times that we face, in these uncertain times, in these times of, hey, is Walmart banning ammunition? Are they not selling ammunition? Are they going to stop? Or is, what's a gunman going to do in our state? Yeah, all of these are dots. But let's look at the bigger picture here. Let's take a few steps back and let's calm down a little bit. Let's not be frenzied. Let's take solace in the Spirit and comfort in the Spirit, and let's look and say, look, okay, we've got to play our positions. What's our positions according to God? What do we need to do? Let's listen to God. Let's go to the source, and let's listen to what we're being told, what positions we have to play. And that, I believe, is what we need to do. Now, the minutiae, the things that we need to pay attention to, I shouldn't call it minutiae, but the important details here, the important news pieces, you can analyze them and figure out what your position will be after when we tell you what's going on here and what we need to be looking at. But please, go to the source. Don't depend on someone else's explanation for it. And be true to God, be true to yourself, and know that you can make a difference. Regardless of what anyone says, you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And you are making a difference in your life. And this is one last thing, and I'm going to shut up here, Joe, but one last thing. After the movie, our conversation, and I don't get to spend a lot of time with my wife, but our conversation went into an area that we don't really talk about, is how we feel, or how we feel, and how we see things individually. And we were talking about, I said, there are some listeners out there, their families think they're crazy because of what they're seeing and what they're saying. And my wife looked at me and she said, well, I can understand that. Not seeing what you see, I fully understand your listeners having family members say, well, you're a little off, because sometimes I think you're a little off, meaning me, off the target, that is, off the mark or off of reality. So I said, well, in what, to explain to me in what areas, for example. And she said, well, what about the economy? And that's a discussion that we can't really have in over a sandwich or over 5 minutes. I mean, we can hit the high points. But when you really start to understand the depth of the problems, the depth of the conspiracies, the depth of the lie that we've been sold, man, it's incredible. So do not lose heart, because there are people now who thought you were crazy 2 and 3 months ago, or who thought you were off 2 or 3 months ago, are starting to understand, because they're seeing not the truth, but they're seeing the reaction of people, and that's getting their attention. I don't know if I made sense on that, or if I tied that together correctly, but I guess all I'm saying is this. Keep talking. Don't worry about what people think of you at the dinner table or at your social club, PTA meeting or whatever. Keep talking, because people are listening, and they're starting to say, "Now wait a minute, maybe Jane's got a point here, or maybe Sue's got a point, or maybe Doug does have a point. Maybe he's not the crazy fool that we thought he was." And that's I just want to get that across to you, because each and every one of you are making a difference, and you are ordinary. You might seem like ordinary folk, ordinary heroes.
We're all ordinary.
Right, exactly. But we're doing, I think, extraordinary things. We can move on from there. I just wanted to pass that along to you guys.
All right. What we're going to do, we got about 10 minutes till break. We should take phone calls the next 2 hours. We did have guests the last 3 shows, and looking for military, police, about, this, what we're seeing in the news. With Obama to take executive action against guns. Let me play you Rahm Emanuel.
Yes.
This is a little 54-second clip.
One, it's all about criminal access. Mm-hmm. It's not about gun control, it's about criminal access to guns. That changes the debate. 2, put the police chief and the law enforcement community front and center. Everybody else, from politicians to whatever, take a back seat. Mm-hmm. Because the police chiefs have a credibility and authority and a voice on this, which is why they're all for there. I do believe, as it relates to both the type of weapon being an assault weapon in this case, or the assault magazine, as Mike has, I think, strenuously focused us on message on that. Mm-hmm. Because the difference between, between a magazine that holds 10 and a magazine that holds 20 or 30 is a lot of different type of damage that's done. Mm-hmm. And those are the 3 things. I do think you can change this debate. I also think the country's in a different place, like it was when we did Brady.
All right, that's Mayor Rahm Emanuel basically saying, take the civilians out of the discussion and leave it to the tyrants. Now we're going to go to Rand Paul, what he was interviewed on CBN News today about his comments over the executive order, Obama is not king.
The Obama administration has suggested using an executive order to bypass Congress if it can't get the gun control measures it wants. GOP Senator Rand Paul told CBN News that members of Congress are prepared to fight such an order.
I'm against having a king. I think having a monarch is what we fought the American Revolution over, and someone who wants to bypass the Constitution, bypass Congress, that's someone who wants to act like a king or a monarch. I've been opposed to executive orders, even with Republican president, but one that wants to infringe on the Second Amendment, we will fight tooth and nail, and I promise you there'll be no rock left unturned as far as trying to stop him from usurping the Constitution, running roughshod over Congress, and you will see one heck of a debate if he decides to try to do this.
Senator Paul spoke to us in our Jerusalem bureau. Look for more of his comments on the Middle East and Israel in the days ahead.
I think we're going to see a lot more than heated debate if they do go through with this, as he said in that statement. I mean, people are on edge. Is the debate, are we going to see debate, or are we going to see fireworks? We're going to see fireworks. We're going to see executive action. We're going to see the clamping down on the American people. At the same time, they are trying to ban, guns and big magazines and assault weapons, as they call them, that are just semi-automatic. You still have to pull the trigger every time you want a bullet to come out. They're calling those assault rifles. Right. Florida sheriffs want drones to monitor civilians. New York, drones all over New York City. We were seeing the increase in the buildup of the war against the American people. Drones are the weapon of choice in the Obama administration, and the destruction of due process. There was just an airstrike that killed 15 people in Pakistan. There was another one recently, I think the last day or two, that killed 5, and this continues to be the case. And one of his advisors have come out and said Obama is as ruthless and indifferent to rule of law as Bush. A former security advisor for Barack Obama is now saying the Pentagon's targeted drone program is counterproductive and is encouraging a new arms race, and has killed far more civilians than it has acknowledged. In an article from January 2013 issue of the journal International Affairs, Michael Boyle, a La Salle University expert on counterterrorism who served as an advisor on the Obama campaign counterterrorism expert group from July 2007 to November 2008, writes that Obama administration's increasing reliance on drone attacks is having adverse strategic effects that have not been properly weighed against the tactical gains associated with killing terrorists. And he goes on to say,
this is, look, you've got a young man or young woman in a windowless building in Florida or Nevada or somewhere, guiding a Predator drone somewhere halfway across the world, perhaps, or maybe even over the continental United States. If it's halfway across the world, they're armed. They press a button, they fire, they kill what? The terrorist family, the collateral. Remember the movie Collateral Damage? I mean, that you know,
yeah,
people die.
There's been 307 deadly drone strikes in Pakistan alone since Obama took office. That's not including Yemen and all the other countries. I think there's like 10 of them. And it goes on to say the director of the 21st Century's Initiative at Brookings Institute says that the U.S. now has 7,000 drones operating and more than 12,000 on the ground, while not a single new manned combat aircraft is under research or development at any Western aerospace company. And they go on to say, Boyle argues for more transparency about the surging use of drones by the Obama administration because he says Americans are unaware of the scale of the drone program and the destruction that it has caused in their name.
That's for this to continue in this down this path. I don't and folks, I'm going to leave it to you to really. I mean, you're going to have to do your own research. I don't know why we are choosing to fight in this fashion, other than the fact that it's a clean fight. Maybe it's
not a clean fight.
Well, no, it doesn't get our troops. There's no dust on the boots of our troops. It's impersonal.
It's impersonal, and it kills much more civilians than it does militants. They don't care about the collateral damage. They believe that they can blow up, a crowd of people if there's one militant they think is in that crowd, and they're okay with that. And apparently the operators of the drones are okay with that. That, to me, when they talk about these mass shootings, how do these kids get so psychotic in the video games? I mean, look what they're doing with the drones. It's the exact same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, the drones we are flying drones, the government is flying drones over the United States right now. As I mentioned before, according to my own source, every state has drone coverage, surveillance drone coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that you are seeing this.
Yeah, if this continues, we are not going to fight a conventional war as people think. This is where we're going to need our protection from the Lord, because how can you go up against a drone? I'm sure you can in certain instances with the right equipment, but people who start their little communities and things just to even get away from what's going on, from the chaos.
That's right.
Could be targeted. We see them, they've been used in the Midwest to go after farmers. They were used in North Dakota to go after a family. They've been used in the U.S. secretly, probably thousands of times already, to gather information, intel, whereabouts, to do trial runs on surveillance, and they are increasing. 30,000 drones will be in the sky, if not already.
Well, I think most of them are already, according to the source that I've got. And once again, I would ask everyone, if you don't mind, and if you feel so compelled to check out HomelandSecurityUS.com, go ahead and look at that video that's on there. It's a compilation really from InfoWars, but InfoWars put it together, but it's from my DHS source, and it kind of, I make a statement, and the InfoWars provides the proof, if you will, or the evidence based on my statement.
From your source.
From my source, correct.
You got to thank that source for doing what he's doing to try to get people aware of what's going on.
That's right.
Because, so much could have not come out. And, we need people inside the government who still have a soul to come out and speak against the injustices, the crimes that are being perpetrated on the American people and the people across the world in our name by this tyrant, Obama, and his staff, and the Congress, and every elected official that doesn't uphold their oath of office.
That's right. And the last thing I want to mention before we go to break, folks, you're going to be seeing an email. This is making its rounds all over the internet. Retired 4-star Admiral James Lyons is saying the attack in Benghazi was as a result of bungled abduction attempt, the first stage of an international prisoner exchange that would have ensured the release of the blind sheik. And please do not believe that. This is the biggest piece of disinformation out there. This I will stake my professional reputation on. I would go head-to-head with a retired four-star admiral. Absolutely, I would I'd put my reputation on the line only because I believe in what my own source, knowing what I know about my source and position of people at the time of the 9/11 attacks in Benghazi. I understand. Look, this is not a kidnapping gone bad. Please understand that. I don't care if this guy is a retired four-star admiral. It is not that.
And I saw that article. Yeah. I didn't look into who he was or what his background is, but
he is not plugged in to the same level. And you've got to remember one thing my source always says is the lie is different at every level. So this is something to take away from the real objective. This has nothing to do with the blind sheik. It had nothing to do with the bungled...
What's the matter at this point?
Well, it matters because people are attempting to rationalize or attempting to say, well, let's get Obama or let's get the people behind Benghazi. And here's the reason, here's the motive, here's what really happened. No.
Well, if it
not
didn't,
what really happened.
If he wasn't, impeached or brought up on charges for the numerous other horrible things he's done as a president, including letting that happen on the anniversary of 9/11, this wouldn't change anything?
No, it changes the complexion of the intent. The intent here is what we're looking at, folks.
We'll be right back listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for 2 more hours and your phone call, 661-244-9839. We'll be back up.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world. Folks, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, great people, Granlund Firearms out of British Columbia. If you happen to be lucky enough to live up in British Columbia, stop in and see them. It's a hunter's paradise. They're located on South Dogwood in beautiful Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada, which happens to be the salmon capital of the world. And it's a beautiful area. But I got to tell you, if you can't get up to Granlund Firearms personally, visit their website at granlundfirearms.com. Go to HomelandSecurityUS.com. Click on the ad on the right-hand side of the page and visit their website. There you will find some really interesting things. Nice photo gallery. And by the way, sign their guest book and mention that the Hagmann Report sent you. But Carl Granlund, he's the owner. He's been in business for over 20 years up there in British Columbia. The guy knows what he's doing. He's got all kinds of, him and his wife, they've got all kinds of supplies for hunters, and they've got rifles and shotguns and all kinds of things. Mossberg, Marlin, Browning, you name it, they've got it. They've got ammunition, reloading supplies, clothing, and stuff. This is one thing, by the way, and I happened to see something written by Mr. Granlund. People forget about the other supplies, not just the guns and the ammo, but the other supplies. They need the other supplies. So pay him a visit on the Internet and check out what they've got. Also, I got a copy in my hand here, Treed, Beyond the River, cougar hunting on Vancouver Island. I gotta tell you, I'm not a hunter, but it's an entertaining. It's an interesting book that Carl wrote, and grab yourself a copy. I was going to hold it up to the camera, and I see that our camera's off. So, anyway, grab yourself a copy of this, Treaty Beyond the River. You're going to be entertained, especially if you are a hunter. Once again, that's GranlandFirearms.com, GranlandFirearms.com. Go to HomelandSecurityUS.com. Click on the ad, and tell them Doug and Joe sent you.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies that work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations that work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, folks, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Doug and Joe Hagmann. We are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We want to thank you very much for joining us tonight, and joining us for every night, and for spreading the word about the program, which is growing incredibly, which we want to thank you so much for, and for your help, because we're trying to just do things to upgrade things and keep things up. It seems like everything's always changing all the time, and we're working to really make the presentation of our program the best we can for you. Calls specifically we're looking for tonight. If you're out there and if you want to call, active or recently retired law enforcement, active or recently retired veterans, Army, military veterans, that is, EMS workers, anybody close to the really the game as it is, or close to the situation. I'm going to put you up first. I'm not sure exactly how Joe's got that planned or how he's working that out, but we're going to give it a whirl. If that's who you are, we'd like to hear from you, and we'll give you first shot. No pun intended, by the way. The thing, too, that Joe mentioned in her first hour or two, is New York preparing to put gun owners in mental hospitals. This is something Kurt Nemo from InfoWars talked about as well. It appears that Cuomo and the legislators there are working on a tentative deal and rolling back the Second Amendment. In New York State, they've proposed declaring gun owners mentally ill, actually. If you really want to get into it, that's kind of where they're headed. And isn't that the larger agenda here, part of the larger agenda? It hasn't always been, folks, one of the keystone or cornerstone parts of the agenda is to disarm Americans so we can't fight. And even more, what about taking away our will to fight? Or what about using the victims of Sandy Hook and other shootings and saying, well, if you're not up for reasonable discussion, that word reasonable discussion, rational discussion about gun control, then you're a kook. See, what kind of rational discussion can you really have, or reasonable discussion can you have? The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment, period. It's written, it's in place, it's in force. The last time I checked, why do we need reasonable or rational discussion about the Second Amendment?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Last time I read it said it shall not be infringed.
Right. Now, I'm also interested in your thoughts. Joe and I are interested in your thoughts. What do you think will happen? Because this week it appears that Obama and company and this advisory board, they're going to come out with some sort of recommendation. What do you think was going to happen when, not if, but when Obama puts the pen to the paper for the executive order that does something that is unconstitutional? Is that going to be the line in the sand, the trigger event, along with the talk by Farrakhan and others about race wars? And then, of course, we've got the economic factors that we're fighting. Is that going to be part of this as well? Against the Constitution, we don't have a balanced budget. There are so many parts to this puzzle. It's just not one. It's a lot of things. So we are facing a perfect storm. And then, of course, the Earth changes. The Earth, the signs, the sun, the moon, the stars, and what's going on here, the earthquakes and the weather, and all of this, the warning signs. Are we seeing? Is it a stretch to bring that into the conversation?
Not at all. Let's go to the phones. We have a caller on hold. We're going to go to Pierre. Pierre, welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You're up, sir. Hello, you're on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Go ahead. Yes, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Well, we can barely hear you. You got to tighten up that. Yes, we can. You just have to tighten up that string and tin can.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just listening in. I didn't hit the line to listen to y'all, but I've been catching your program here the past couple of days. It's been really interesting. All this gun control, everything that's going on is really, it bothers me that they're taking away our constitutional rights, because my family came here around the 1640s, 1650s, and they fought the Revolutionary War to get away from tyranny, and then now it's like it's coming back all over again.
It is. What are your thoughts? Do you see things happening at do you see like a spark igniting a second revolutionary war here, or do you think people are just going to be complacent and angered but complacent?
I kind of see a little bit of both, but I know we got too many proud Americans who fought and died to hold up the Constitution. We've got too many people here that don't want to see the American way of life, God, country, and family to go out the door. And I'm praying to God that we keep cooler heads and somehow, trust in the Lord. That's the problem. We've turned our backs on God. We've walked away from Him. So now we're receiving a judgment. And I pray that we just get back and repent and turn back to the Lord. But it says in the Scriptures, if my people will call by my name, humble themselves, He's faithful to hear them. But
yes,
there's a darker force at work, and I see it. I've told my own children the days of baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet, that's gone.
Interesting.
I don't know where you are located, but when I went up north, when I took my boys about 10, 15 years ago to my hometown up in Pennsylvania, and I showed them all the factories that used to be there. You know what they got? They got nothing but a plaque and a piece of machinery painted saying this is what used to be here. I can remember my grandparents, my great-uncles, my uncles, everybody going to work at factories. It's gone. Everything we knew of America is gone, Mr. Hagmann, and it's sad.
It's sad. I want to thank you for your call. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And in fact, it is sad. What has been Americana, what we've known, what we've been familiar with as Americana has been taken from us. Some due to the obvious, advancement of our civilization, if that's what you want to call it, but most due to the more nefarious parts of things. And that caller was right.
Yeah, and I screwed up. That wasn't Pierre.
No.
We're going to go to Pierre now.
All right, let's go to Pierre. Pierre, it's good to hear from you.
Hey guys, how are you doing today?
Very well. What's on your mind tonight? Talk to us.
I want to say hello to everyone in the chat room. It's just, my normal greetings. I heard what you were saying earlier about what are we going to do? How can we handle this? What actions can be taken? What plays are going to be laid out? This is a mean chess game or a game of a 5-card stud or whatever.
Right.
And bluffs are being pulled. I don't see a peaceful resolution out of this. I don't. I think many of you agree with me on that too. I'm not just talking hyperbole out there. Nearly every form of peace.
Wait a minute. Wait. Hang on a second, Pierre. I'm not sure if I caught you or Joe. I'm not sure if you can hear him. Did you say you don't see a second revolution coming?
No, that's not it. I said I don't see a peaceful solution.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, I appreciate that.
Solution to this at all, because all this talk of who should have what and why and what have you. I can understand the whole issue of assault weapons like machine guns or RPGs and all that other craziness. But when it comes to like semi-automatic handguns or bolt-action rifles or semi-automatic rifles, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. You as a citizen, all of you who are listening, those are in the chat room, and people around the world, you have a right here in the United States of America by the Second Amendment to defend yourself against the tyranny. It's the bottom line. It's not about hunting, going after squirrels and deers and anything. It's not a redneck situation. This is not even remotely comical. I mean, this is very, very real. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're at a point where this isn't even peacetime for us. We're at that point waiting for the balloon to go up. And
yes.
When that balloon goes up, it's going to come down. The question is how. I could definitely see the economic hand coming down on this. But when I saw on Drudge about how said, the issues of executive orders and he can use it, and Biden says, oh, yeah, well, he's going to go that route. Well, then, as far as I'm concerned, he just nullified publicly that there was no need to have a debate with Congress or the Senate on it. It's just, I'm going to write an executive order. I don't care what you're going to say. So as far as I'm concerned, that whole situation just got straight hijacked. And
so Pierre,
take note.
What do we have? We have a whole bunch of Americans standing around looking at one another saying, well, what do we do now? I mean,
well,
when's the hammer coming?
It's not a question of, for me personally, it's not a question of when this hammer is going to come. The question is, since they should be focused on what are we going to do about this, because it's coming. I don't know the future. I can't give you a date on that. Honestly, I can't. What I can say is this. Everyone asks, what should we do? How can we handle this? You all know what the answer to that question is. I'm not reciting anything. You all know. And for the powers that be that are listening on the radio right now, you know I'm right. You all know what that answer is. You've been wanting a violent pushback. You want to push the people in the corner and make them fight back. You want this. I hope you realize, and this is just to the bad guys that are listening to me, I hope you realize that what you're doing, you're not going to get away with. You're not going to come out of this unscathed. You will be held accountable. You will be found. Eventually, you will be. You can't hide in the shadows forever. The light will shine on you. You will be held answerable for what you've done. You don't go pushing people and not expect them to simply roll over. This is America. We're not any of these other countries in the world who capitulated and gave their firearms over, whether it's through coercion or they were just too weak to stand up against their tyranny. We have a chance. we still have a fighting chance. It's sad where the country's gone spiritually, but those that are spiritually sound and set, we still have a chance.
Yeah,
I want to say the word that he said, but if I do, that's advocating some very serious, what's the word I'm looking for, consequences. And I'm going to leave it to, instead of me saying what I need to say, I'm going to say something that can't be contravened. And this can be looked up for any of you. This is by Abraham Lincoln. It's simple. The people of the United States are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. If I'm going to get condemned for saying something stupid, look at the source. This is the president that said it. Mm-hmm. So, as far as I'm concerned, there's your answer, folks. If the question is, how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to sit and wait and let them draw the first blood, or are you going to make the move yourselves? It's time for you all to take off these rose-colored mirror shades, wake up to what's going on. And we're not just even talking about the Second Amendment here. We're talking about also the moral and ethical standing of this country. We're talking about what we once stood for. That's gone. Now it has to be reforged into something better. We can't go back in the past and get it, but we could try to make better on it instead of always fighting these proxy wars. In case people, you guys have forgotten about this whole deal, our forces are being consistently deployed all the time. We have foreign forces fully armed and loaded on our soil, training under our forces' elite cadres in the use of a military operations in urban terrain, MOUT. It doesn't get any more clearer than that. You have a federal government on the one hand that wants to, for all intents and purposes, nullify and or terminate the Constitution.
They're doing it every day.
Every day. And no one, peaceful protest, folks, it's a good thing. But remember, at some point, if you're not covering your backs, these people aren't stupid. These people infiltrated COINTELPRO, Occupy. And even Occupy, that movement, was something of a subversion in and of itself that didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. But the fact of the matter is, they insinuated themselves in it. Look what happened. What was the end result of it? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing really got accomplished. Nothing got accomplished. It was a gigantic psychological operation that backfired horribly. We're in the middle of a spiritual war that's going on. What's happening in the spiritual realm is affecting the physical realm. We have issues of unknown celestial bodies coming through our solar system that could potentially create havoc on our planet. That one asteroid named Apophis, of all things, that could slam in and take out a bunch of satellites, for instance.
Yep.
That's an issue. These little tiny things that they give us, Doug and Joe, but they don't give us everything. So we have to figure out the next logical steps ahead of time. You know, we cannot afford to be the kid that waits to get fed. We have to feed ourselves.
But Pierre, look. But wait a second. Here's what I see. I see a government so far out of control that people don't even recognize their rights are being violated. My goodness, the right, when we traveled, we're molested, and literally molested, and that's okay. And now they're talking about the banning of magazines. And you know what? I have a feeling to a lot of people that's going to be okay. At what point, Pierre, what's it going to take? Is it going to take, and I've got to tell you, the murder of Mr. Ratliff behind the YouTube website of the pro-gun.
Oh, for what? FPS Russia?
Yes. the car accident of the other gentleman, and then of course the apparent suicide of the Reddit gentleman, which it could have been a suicide, but there was a psychological weakness there where the government could have been involved in that. See, what's it going to take for Americans to say, okay, we have, I mean, to all of a sudden show up en masse in Washington, D.C. and demand redress for what's going on in this country? What's it going to take?
I think what it's going to take is this, and unfortunately, I can see it playing out like this. And no one's going to be marching when this happens. What's going to take is going to take a lot of American blood to be spilled. It's all going to happen in one big burst. By the time that people realize what happened, there won't be any time to protest. There won't be any time to do much of anything except panic. I'm talking about the detonation of a thermonuclear device on the soil of continental United States. I'm talking about the biggest of psyops that could be done.
All right.
And I could see that, guys. There's missing briefcase-sized nukes that are out there. Think about this. This country is in turmoil. Martial law needs to be declared. They're trying to figure out ways. They know what they need to do. They just got to find the opportunity to do it. And bet you dollars to dimes, it'll probably happen and coincide with another major event of some kind of public fanfare or something that will catch everyone off guard. They will not permit a protest to happen. They're not going to let that happen. All the protesting that we're talking about, that we foresee happening, will be happening after such events happen. And then when the food stops and the fuel stops coming in and the clothes, that's when we're going to see that. But by then, it's just going to be violent. But I actually see, I'm not going to divert what I'm saying here, I actually see someone or a group of someone's detonating a nuke off to trigger some seriously bad stuff happening. Maybe someone else put in the chat room, what about bioweapons? That could happen too. This flu pandemic has got me raising up a lot of questions too. A lot of questions. And it's going worldwide. England had like 1.1 million people with some sick with a variation of it that caused people to vomit. We got people here in America that are consistently getting sick off this thing. I wouldn't put it past them. It's just my theory. But I wouldn't put it past them if this was some kind of recombinant virus. Case in point. And I'm not fear-mongering for the record. I'm just trying to educate people on the possibility of such things happening. Mind you, 9/11 happened. We've had the Sandy Hook school shootings. We're finding out a lot of things are psyops. I would not put this past them as being one, too, as well on a biowarfare level. But think about it. Agent A is released without the knowledge of the people. People are breathing in whatever Agent A is in an aerosol form or maybe even a liquid form. What better way than the water supply? Then, after whatever said time would be calculated that most people are infected, then Agent B would be introduced. Once B gets in, it mixes with A, and then it creates the result of Agent C, which then you just see the picture where I'm going from with this.
Yeah.
Now, is that happening right now? Guys, I really don't know. But given the level of how blatant certain acts of aggression have been happening in the world and in our country, whether it's legislative or by lethal force, I would not put it past the powers that be to pull something like this off. I wouldn't. Why? It makes sense to do. You know, if there's another way of dealing with it, there you go. Part A, Part B creates the bigger picture for C. Now you have your deaths or people that are infirmed and can't resist or can't do anything. You take populations out non-lethally as best you can in order to get control of them. If you could do it psychologically, that's one way. If you could do it on a biochemical level, that's another way. But you're still pacifying the public. But if that isn't going to work, and you figure that's not going to work, then eventually what's going to happen is they're going to have to raise the stakes to a lethal level. Hence, we saw 9/11, and we lost over 3,000 people on that. Hence the war we've been fighting now for, 11 years? And what results have produced out of that war? We haven't produced any real results out of that war. We've been there longer than the Soviets were back then. We're expanding. in various different theaters of war. Our people are not coming back home, and those that do come back home are coming back pretty messed up, and they're being labeled as terrorists. You got a government that's completely out of control of this. The bottom line is, which goes right back to your original question, Doug, what do we do about this? And then it goes to your question, Joe, how can we handle this? You all know the answers, all of you. I'm not just saying to the hosts of the show. You all know the answers. No one's doing anything.
I think we all do. You know what, Pierre? We all do.
Do you follow me? Because if we say, see, that's the double-edged sword of the First Amendment here. For all of you who are listening, now you're learning really what the double-edged sword of the First Amendment is. We could speak our thoughts, but you got to be careful with what you say, because if you get screwed or misconstrued as a verbal act of terrorism, I can see that. I can actually see someone saying that. And someone will say, yeah, you're right, that is verbal terrorism. Watch, it will happen. And we can't say that, guys, because if we do, they're going to shut your show down, and we're going to go to jail.
Well, of course.
All because we're saying the truth.
Well, it's not, okay. I understand that. And really there is no legitimate reason for us to say something that would be seditious in nature.
Exactly. But reading the Declaration of Independence could be considered being seditious by talking about overthrowing tyrannical governments. That
at that point,
not only is your duty, or not only is it a responsibility, it is your duty to do so.
But when we discuss this in an intellectual environment as we are, saying, okay, here's the Declaration of Independence, here's the Constitution. Anyone not conforming or complying with the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, whatever, then we must remove from office. And now that to me, okay, that's fair game. And if somebody wants to shut us down for saying that, then
you
got bigger problems.
Now calling for the death of the birthers. You have people on TV calling for the death of other people standing up for.
You got that point right there, Joe, and that's something I didn't hit on. Thank you. You got people who called for the death of Alex Jones, for instance, and now you got people calling for the death of birthers and stuff.
Right.
They're drawing the verbal first blood. They're drawing this.
And getting away with it.
There's only a small pocket of us that are reacting to this. My question is, and I know the answer to my question, it's kind of rhetorical, why isn't anyone reacting to this? Why? Because no one wants to do anything. They want to sit and they want to wait and see where this goes, or they're going to ignore it, and then they're going to react. By then, it's too late. There is a tit-for-tat thing. If someone's going to say and advocate openly on the air, and I don't care if it's a joke, about sanctioning an individual and laughing about it, or sanctioning a group of individuals by their titles because they want proof of something, then as far as I'm concerned, those people who are talking this and advocating this are just as guilty, if not more so, of wanting to have a violent pushback. And if that's something what these guys want, and it goes right back to the point that I made that everyone heard me say, if that's what they want, it's what they're going to get. The thing for them is it's not going to come out to the projected plan that they thought.
Right.
You cannot take in account all variables. I don't think these people have. You can only push people so long, so far, so fast. This isn't the 1960s. This isn't the Watts riots or anything. You're talking about people today who got hands on technology, cell phones, laptops, who can educate themselves. These people know how to fight. And I'm not. You don't have to be, Billy Bad on the block who can ball his fist and beat someone. You could take someone down intellectually. When someone creates an idea and the idea becomes something, it becomes something more than just simple words, and it's believed in by people, that idea takes on a life all of its own. And the more that these people keep promoting their agenda and have their followers, the consequences the more the movement that we deal with and counter to them grows.
Right.
At some point, the line's going to get crossed. Personally, I think that line had already been crossed.
Yeah,
that
agreed.
line got crossed 12 years ago. It did, but no one had what it took to stand up because everyone got into the emotional fervor. That is one of the drawbacks. But then again, we're human beings. We're going to feel. We're going to be emotional. So we're not going to be thinking straight. So we're going to toss all our energy and resources into attacking this made-up foe. Now look where it's got us. If people decided to just take a breath, relax, and then see what really needs to be done, we probably could have been handling this war a whole different way. We probably could have stopped all this crap that's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, we're in total subversion.
No,
What
I agree.
I say to everyone is get ready to fight because it's coming. And they're not going to give up on you. They're not going to stop on you. You're either going to get put in a camp or you're going to get terminated with extreme prejudice. You know? Or worse, have someone that you know and that you love, someone that you trust, betray you. Luke 21, folks, read it. Very real. We're in that age. We are in that age. I'm not like Steve Quell. I'm not like Greg Evenson or any of these other guys that have wonderful accolades. These are awesome gentlemen. These are good men who know their stuff. I'm telling you guys stuff based on experience that I know, but what I see happening. I mean, I live it. I know what I'm seeing. I know what I'm hearing. I pray on things. I ask for discernment. I just see the drama play out before me. And folks, it's going to get ugly. It's really going to get ugly. But you need to get yourself spiritually set. You need to think about what you're going to do. And then God bless you all to carry out whatever it is you're going to do. And hopefully you're doing it in a right and just manner. You're doing something that is right for the Constitution, for this Republic, more importantly, in the name of God. That's what you're doing it for. You're not being a jihadist. You're not acting like a martyr or anything like that. You're doing what you need to do to restore what once was. Because, folks, we have lost it. This is like the little respite or tea time at cricket or the seventh inning stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Because once this game kicks off, folks, it's going to roll. And it's not going to take any prisoners, per se, in the way you think. And it hurts. It hurts me knowing what I know. It hurts me knowing how far they're going to go. And they're going to do it. They've already got the assets in place. It doesn't get any more clear when you got Doug, you got Joe, you got Alex Jones, you got Steve Quell, Greg Evenson, and the list goes on. All of them telling you, hey, guess what, folks? They're here. This is happening. It's real. And yet, when you look outside, people still going about their daily lives like nothing's going on. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to confront it. They just like, well, if it comes, it comes. Or every time you talk, Pierre, it's just like you're just a doomsayer. I'm not a doomsayer, folks. I'm a pragmatist. I live in reality, and this reality is looking pretty bad. There is a solution to it, folks, but you gotta get together as American people, as God-fearing American people, to say enough is enough. We're not going to take this anymore. You need to step down, Mr. President, because of these things, or Congress, you need to be removed. There's no more career politicians or the Senate. Let's not even get started with those folks. But you all understand what I'm saying. The power has always resided in the people. But when the people got too comfortable, they got too lazy, too complacent, you've advocated.
Very well said.
Be right. You've advocated. I don't want to take up any more airtime because there's other people I need to call. But you want that which is yours, folks. You got to step up.
It's good to hear. Well, it's good to hear you, a caller, and someone out there in the world is saying what you said. It's good to hear from your perspective saying what we're trying to say from a slightly different vantage point, but nonetheless the same. Now is the time. Get the sand out of your eyes, people, because it's here. You know, it is on apparently.
Pierre, thanks for your call.
God bless you, my friend.
You have a great night.
No problem. All right, you guys take care, and I look forward to talking to you guys again, okay?
All right, my friend.
All
Very
right,
well.
bye.
All right, that was Pierre. We're going to move right along to another call, area code 559. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi. Say, I talked to you guys a few months ago about the false flag on Romney being assassinated.
Yes, you know what? Go ahead.
No, that's my name, Doug.
Doug, yeah, I had in fact, I had seen the note from that show when you called earlier today. What's on your mind?
Well, obviously, Romney was assassinated by the press. But, okay, getting off of that, what's on my mind is I listened to your show the other night with Nathan Leal.
Right.
And something that I don't know if people understand or not, but can I read a scripture to you?
Sure.
Okay. Mark 13:11. But when they lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what you shall speak, neither premeditate, but whatsoever shall be given to you in that hour, that speak ye. For it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I spent time as an armed security guard in a courthouse out here in California. I am armed, and I'll protect my family. But if somebody comes to my door and has credentials, and they come along with the sheriff, excuse me, I'm going to do whatever they want me to do, because it just doesn't make any sense to me to fling a couple rounds at them and a whole hail comes back at me.
Well, that was going to be one of the questions I had when this goes down. Who will we be fighting? We're going to be fighting each other. We're going to be fighting our own people.
Exactly. And it says, Jesus said, when you're delivered up, you're going to give a testimony. Well, it's going to be hard for me to give a testimony with some kind of a 223 round or a 45 cal in my forehead.
Well,
so
yeah.
I would say, on the other hand, if somebody comes busting in my house without presenting any kind of ID, or if they come in as thieves, they're going to meet a lot of resistance. They're gonna between my wife and myself, her shotgun and my 45, they're going to get a few rounds slung at them.
Okay, but
I'm not going to take a chance on my wife and my children being here and put them in danger by resisting, government force.
Okay, but Doug,
perish in the act.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, you gave us two scenarios. You gave us the knock on the door with credentials, and then you gave us the busting in through the door. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say from what I can understand, they're not going to ask nicely.
Okay, now, but let me give you a third scenario, and you tell me how you'd react. That gun that you're wearing underneath your sport coat or underneath your jacket. Let's say that through executive action or order, Obama says, "Hey, Doug, that gun, that's illegal now. Now what are you going to do?"
I'm going to talk to my local sheriff first, and I'm going to get counsel from him because he's the one that ultimately I'll have to deal with.
Okay, and in states like Pennsylvania, where we live, and our sheriff, who's signed on to a pledge to stand up to the tyranny of the federal government, that's fine. What if your sheriff says, you know what?
At that point, I just take my marching orders from Jesus.
Okay,
and
well,
he said I'm gonna.
That's good.
I'll be delivered up.
And I think it's kind of a very difficult discussion to have, isn't it?
Sure.
Because there's that area in there, that holy cow area. and a lot of talk shows aren't hitting these various scenarios, and
out of all the talk shows, most of the talk shows, the element that's missing is a spiritual element.
Yeah, exactly.
And that connection, if you don't have that, you won't know what to do. You will be lost. You will be running to and fro.
That's why I bring up what Jesus said, and his marching orders are: you're going to be delivered up. Take no forethought of what you're going to say. They'll take you up for a testimony, and that's when the Holy Spirit speaks through you. But if you're laying dead in a pool of blood, there's nothing for the Spirit to speak through.
Correct.
And that's where I'm coming from. You know, obviously, if somebody comes busting through my door with no notice, no warning, nothing whatsoever, I'm going to fight. Because I don't know who the hell they are.
Right.
And I'm not taking a chance on my family getting, wiped out. For all I know, I live in Central California. They have screwballs up and down the highway down here, and from Fresno to Madeira down to Visalia. They have screwball gang members down here. They get 3 or 4 of them together, and they just bust into somebody's house in midday sometimes. A lot of them have been shot in the process, thank God. But, I do believe, and I may be wrong, but I do believe that any government force coming to take my weapons, they're going to announce themselves and announce their intentions. I don't believe they'll just come busting through the door, because if they do, they're going to get shot.
Right.
Well,
I can't believe that they would do something that blatantly against the law. But who knows? Like I said, look at New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly.
That old lady I picture with her little handgun. Those people that took that gun from her and busted through her door would have been laying in a pool of blood if that had been me, because I don't know who they are. For all you know, they were looters.
Right, but I think the key thing that you said there was the passage from Mark, and the providing up the testimony. So I think that's so important. And like I said, talk shows don't really get into the heaviness, the weightiness of where the spiritual meets the practical, and that's what we're talking about here. Because this is going to be a war fought. I mean, we're fighting this war on a spiritual and a practical level. You've seen, you're a Vietnam vet. Thank you for your service, by the way. Don't know if you saw combat. Just being in country is enough to I mean, that's enough. But that said, the war is both spiritual and practical.
Yeah. On the other hand, I was in naval security, and I went through some training. From what I saw over there, and what I saw, what I got in my counterinsurgency training, they can take my weapons.
Yeah.
I still have ways of protecting my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's enough to be said about that. Nobody's going to ever break into my house without asking to come in.
Well, I hope that's the case. Sadly, I do believe.
Yeah, I hope that's.
People are saying that
never happens.
Steve Quayle said they're not coming for your guns; they're coming for you.
Yeah, and caller.
Exactly.
And that's what people have to understand. And Steve and I talked about this off air too. They are coming for the outspoken people, and I think that's been demonstrated already with the deaths that we've seen. And even if you want to throw Andrew Breitbart into the mix, which people will say, well, he had a heart attack, and okay, maybe he did, but you know what? There's an element there, or a bit there that says, boy, it's an awful convenient timing, and we're seeing deaths that are awfully conveniently timed. I've just got to say, look, they're coming for people.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I thought my phone died on me. Steve Quayle's right. They're coming for you, not your guns. But you have to really listen to what Jesus said in the red letters. It states, Don't premeditate what you're going to say, because the Spirit will, the word, it'll be given to you as a testimony with the Spirit. There's a reason that they take you and you're delivered up. I don't want to be delivered up. On the other hand, I want to do everything I can for Jesus. I'm almost 65 years old, and I've got a bad heart. The only thing I'm protecting around here is my wife and kids. I have lived a long life. And, with my sensibilities, if I were to leave it to my own sensibilities, I'd go out in a blaze of glory. But that's not what Jesus wants us to do.
Well, you make a good point,
but
Doug.
If they come banging through my door with no announcement, no anything, they're going to meet a hail of bullets. If they come and knock at my door and say, "We want your guns, here's the order, here's the paperwork, this is the sheriff," I'll have talked to the sheriff before then, to see where he stands on the deal. If that's the will of him, then that's the way it'll be done. And if they want to take me along with the gun, then there's my deliverance.
Point well made, my friend.
That's what I'm here for.
Thanks for the call, Doug. We're going to move on.
Point well made.
We appreciate it. You have a good night.
Interesting
Thank you,
take.
gentlemen, and God
Good
bless.
take. God bless you as well.
We got about 9 minutes before break.
Interesting times in which we live, Joe.
Area code 304. You've been on hold a long time. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can.
304?
We can hear you well.
You guys are having a good show tonight. I mean, there's some people talking, and I mean, they're saying what's on their hearts.
It's a difficult show.
You guys still there with me?
Yes, caller. It's a difficult show. See, to me, this is so difficult. It's not difficult in. I don't mean conflicting spiritually. I'm talking about this is such a weighty topic to have, or weighty, heavy discussion.
It is.
But we need to have it.
It is. Yes, we do. And ever since I've been a little boy, I'm gonna lay it out to you. Ever since I've been a little, I've known this was going to happen. I've known this was going to come. One day, we are going to have to individually make a decision. You're going to lay down your credit card. You're going to lay down your license. You're going to lay down your cell phone. And you're going to take a walk with God, or else you're not going to walk very far. And I know what people say. And I know, you know what, if they're coming to my house, I have my own home, they want to come to my house and take away my fictitious guns that I don't have. But they're not coming for my guns. They're coming for me. They're coming for my Bible. They're coming for what I have to say, because they don't want to hear it. I have a good friend that I talk to all the time, and she's tired of hearing what I have to say. They're tired of hearing what's going on, but it's still there. It's still in your face. These people are bringing this to our face.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You see,
they are. I mean, they're putting it right in our face.
And you know something, Cole? You mentioned something about ever since you were young, you had a feeling that this was going to take place, or like a premonition, if you will. I've talked to so many people who have said very similar things to me, that they've inherently known that they were born for this time in this place. And I think that
oh, yes.
You know something? That to me tells me that we obviously we're spiritual beings, but we're on the right track here, because we're on the same, I don't want to say, wavelength, same spiritual feeling. And when the time comes, just like the last caller about the testimony, yeah, I think things will fall into place, and we will be playing the positions we need to play at the time we need to play them. But that says it all, though. What you just said about having that feeling.
Well, people, they read the Bible, but they only choose to read part of it. But there was a lot in the prophets, and they talk about the bringing back of the two houses, how that will play out and how it will be. The house of Judah and the house of Israel, the 10 tribes that were lost and that are out there among all the nations. Now, God is going to do this, and He's going to write His laws in our hearts with a diamond bit. And I don't know if I can say it any better than that, because that is what's going to happen. People, we were on there with, you were on there, guys, last night with Tom Horn. He played it exactly right. Exactly. We're going to face, no one understands.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't understand what we're going to face. But we need to understand that we will not bow, we will not bend, and we will not break. And one thing about the three the Hebrew children, when they told that to Nebuchadnezzar right in his face, they said, "You don't even have to play the music, because we won't. You can throw us in the fire right now." And that's exactly what happened.
Well, thanks, Carl.
We will not bow, we will not bend, and we will not break.
That's
we were here for this. We're here for this moment. We're here to meet Lucifer, and he is coming to be with us.
Well said. Well said, and I'm glad you took that from that show last night, because I did as well. After getting to the end and having things say, "Oh yeah, this is how it is." So,
yeah, thanks for your call.
God bless you, my friend.
We're up against the break. We're coming back with more of your calls, so stay on hold if you're there.
Good call.
Say this: there's an article up on Judge Biden. White House readies 19 executive actions on guns. The White House identified 19 executive actions for Obama to move unilaterally on gun control.
Friends, are you? Wait, Joe, do you have a problem with executive actions?
Yeah, of course I do.
No, I mean the word. Executive orders. Okay, White House readies 19 executive orders on guns. Okay.
Yeah, and listen to this: the executive actions or orders could include giving the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Authority to conduct national research on guns, more aggressive enforcement of existing gun laws. You hear that? The Center for Disease Control, enforcing gun laws. See, and this is sharing existing gun databases among federal, state agencies, and members in the Congress. It's all focusing on enforcing existing law, administering things like improving the background database, things like that. Do not involve a change in the law, but enforcing and making sure that the present law is administered as well as possible. They're talking about bringing things back like the assault weapons ban, prohibition of high-capacity magazine clips, universal background checks, constant renewal of licenses, registering of weapons. The list goes on.
And when I was on Alex Jones, as well as this program, did I not say that they were going to bring in the health care into this?
Mm-hmm. And we knew that. Of course they have to. That's why the doctors have been asking for the last year, when you go to get your routine checkup, do you own a firearm? That's not by coincidence. Folks, we're up against the break. We'll be right back after a few short minutes. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, January 14th, 2013. We're going to be taking your phone calls for the rest of the show, so stay with us.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
If you're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 3 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, January 14th. We're going to go right back to phone calls as we were talking about the executive orders, the push for gun control, gun confiscation, and everything in between.
Joe, just before we go to the phones, I got to say this. Just right after, as we saw Sandy Hook, and by the way, I'm not convinced. Look, there's unanswered questions with Sandy Hook. If the journalists would just do their jobs and would have done their jobs, there's some issues there that I'm not comfortable with. But one of the things I want to say that every single survivor of genocide has said this very same thing. When they come to take your guns, shoot them. Okay, and seriously, I'm reading this because this goes back to the what happened back in Germany and of course Turkey, 1911 gun registration in Turkey in 1911, and what happened in the USSR. I'm looking at photographs here of people digging their own graves. Mm-hmm. It's such a thing that if a firearm was legal to own in 2012 under the Second Amendment, then you know what? It's going to still be legal to own in 2013 after these executive orders, and they will be legal forever no matter what so-called executive orders are handed down or new laws are passed by this bootlicking Congress. And those who say otherwise are either liars or traitors or both, or oath breakers or domestic terrorists. Mm-hmm.
Enemies of this nation.
Enemies of this nation. And history is absolutely abundantly clear with numerous examples of the dangers and the pitfalls and the intent of registration and gun control. And that's, you know what, I guess, I don't know, what, 170 million deaths under in the 20th century under communism. Apparently that was not enough. The harvesting of the souls, apparently that was not enough.
History just needs to be our example. We can learn from, they call it democide, death by government. Area code 516, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
516, you're up.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Very well.
Hello.
Yes, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is a couple of things. I actually thought Nathan Leal brought up a very pertinent thing that many of us have contemplated deeply on, is what will we do? And through a lot of prayer, discernment, and deep thought, only one truth comes to light. And the only weapon that we'll need for this battle will be the sword of the Spirit. That is a sword we will be yielding in these times. Not an AK-47, not an AR-15, but the sword of the Spirit.
Yeah. We need the armor of Ephesians. We need the armor of God in order to proceed. We need the discernment, the spiritual discernment. I agree. I totally agree. Do you see things?
Lazy.
Do you see things coming to a head now?
I'm one who's prepared for all possibilities. I just feel that the Spirit has deeply moved me to just say that, because the battle that's ahead of us will not be won in the physical. This is a spiritual battle. And the power and authority we have in Christ is the power, authority, and everything we need to come out where we should be in these last days. And I believe, like the Lord said, those who come after me will do greater works than I have done before. There's a remnant out there who understands this. You could almost say a nuclear bomb would go off in your back pocket and you won't have to worry about it. Yes, the flesh tells us, arm, fight. But you're not fighting the flesh. This is a spiritual battle. And it will only be won by the sword of the Spirit. And that's really all I have to say. But I've been right there with everyone else. And, I was brought up very patriotic. Believe in the Constitution. But you know what? I don't serve any nation or any... I serve the Most High. And this battle is not about a constitution. It's about liberty, but not the liberty of the United States of America. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. We're in a spiritual battle, and this battle will be won spiritually, not in the flesh. And that's all I'd like to say, gentlemen.
Well, God bless you for saying it. I think that was well said.
Yeah, thank you for the call. Have a good night.
Wow.
And
he said a lot. He
further
said a lot.
than Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, and in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers under His wings. You shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. And it goes on. And we're going to go back to the phone.
Think about.
Area code 434. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Amen, Joe. I agree with you 100% on that scripture. This is Brett Brooks. I called in about 6 weeks ago, and this is my second time calling in. I'd like to, if it's okay, tell you guys a couple of true stories about, God's provision and His protection. And before I get off, I'd like to pray for you guys, if that's okay.
We always accept that.
Yeah. Well, the first one is there was a gentleman who was a doctor. He was down in Africa. And down there, they travel in groups because of all the theft and the gangs roaming and stuff like that. And they were on their way to town to buy medicines to take back out to the tribe they were working with. And in the middle of the night, one of them woke up and they thought they heard something. And, of course, they thought, well, it's bandits. They're coming to steal our money and stuff. And but nothing happened. And then they got to town, and this guy came up to him, and came up to the doctor and told him, said, look, he said, if you hadn't had that army of men, big, gigantic men, looked like they was decked out like Rambo, surrounding your camp, he said, I would have killed you last night and taken everything you had. And the doctor was just puzzled. You know, he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, well, he said, you better keep those men with you, he said, because next time if you don't have them, he said, we will take everything you have and kill you. Well, this doctor came back to the States and came to a church and was telling about his ministry there, his missionary ministry, and helping the people. And a guy stood up and asked him a question. He said, exactly what date was this, that this happened? He told him. And he said, well, I just want you to know that on that exact night, myself and some other men were in the basement of the church praying for your group. And God provided, they actually saw while they were praying that there was a doctor that needed protection. And they were praying for his protection, his group's protection. So that was, you know, just really amazing that God had provided that protection for him.
Wow.
And then there's other stories that I've heard over the years about like a biker. And a preacher stopped on the side of the road out in California to help him because the biker was broke down. And he helped him out. And then when it was all done, the biker pulled a gun on him, pulled a 9mm and stuck it right in his face, 6 inches from his face. And told him, now give me all your money. And he gave him all his money and his watch and, you know, everything he had. And he said, okay, now, because you've seen my face, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to kill you. And then all of a sudden, the biker just turned white as a sheet and dropped his gun and started running. And what this man saw was an angel had appeared behind the priest and preacher, and basically scared the wits out of the biker, so he saved this preacher's life. This angel did. And I've heard different stories like that before. I've heard of stories where people were shot point blank and the bullets never hit them.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure you guys have heard these kind of stories as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Jesus, when they were after him to kill him and all of a sudden he disappeared, they couldn't see him anymore.
When we toured Valley Forge, they talked about George Washington being shot 6 times and all the bullets went through his coat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
divine protection. Yeah.
Yes. And but you have to realize, though, people have to realize you have to be walking in God's will to have that type of supernatural protection. Good example, true story, Michael Rood. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was in Jerusalem, okay? And his friend had went down to get his sandals resold. And so Michael left the motel and he come down and was walking downtown there where the shops were. And this lady came into the sandal shop and she had a bag, and she dropped the bag the guy asked her what he could do for her, and she dropped the bag and took off outside. Well, Michael just so happened to be walking in front of the shop, the sandal shop. He was going to meet his friend, and all of a sudden, a huge explosion. That bag was full, had a bomb in it, and it exploded. And Michael said he was standing there, and he had bits of burnt flesh all over him and smoke, and his ears were ringing. He couldn't hear anything. The only thing that saved him from that bomb was a 13-inch column that happened to be in front of that store, and he happened to be standing right in between the column and the store, right in front of the column. He went trying to help people. He's an ex-Marine, and one of the soldiers, he went to try and help him, had his legs blown off and his arm blown off, and had an M16. He told him, I'm an ex-Marine, I'm going to secure your weapon and try to help you. And then he saw a woman's head laying in the street, and he got a piece of cloth and wrapped it up and took it to the police there, the Israeli military, gave it to him and tried to tell him, this is a woman's head. And it turns out that was the head of the very first female bomber in Israel. And she was the one that set the bomb off. But like Michael says, he said, if I had prayed about this, and he said, and God had told me this is what was going to happen if I went downtown, he said, I stayed in bed. But he followed what God wanted him to do, and he just happened to be exactly where God wanted him to be at the time that happened to save his life. Plus, his friend Hagmann was in another part of the store, and the wall between him and the bomb saved his life as well. So I tell my wife on all this stuff about them coming to carry us away or shoot us or take us to FEMA camps and whatever, I said, God, if he wants to, now if it's his will and we're in his will, he can make our whole house, when they come by, it'll just look like an empty lot. I mean, God can do anything. You can't put him in a box and say he will or won't do this or that.
And Paul, that's exactly right. The divine protection is what we're talking about as well. And what others aren't talking about is what we need to be talking about, that divine protection. And as you pointed out in these accounts, it's just astounding.
Yeah, and it's there. I mean, like the gentleman said before me, we are fighting a spiritual battle. Now, last time I was on, I mentioned the fact that we all felt something when Obama got reelected. Something changed in the spiritual realm, but God puts kings in their place and rulers in their place, whether for good, bad, evil, good, whatever. And Obama is there for a particular reason to bring about particular things that God wants to happen, and that God already told us would happen in Daniel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Revelations, all over the Bible, that he's told us these things are coming. But Doug and Joe, what did he say to do about them? Did he say to get a bunch of food ready, or get a bunch of guns and ammo ready and stuff like that?
Go on.
No. He said for us to pray and for us to watch. Now, it's good for us to know and keep track of what's going on in the world, so we'll know what time it is.
Correct.
According to God and God's prophecies, and know where we're at in time. So you guys are doing an absolute wonderful service, bringing these things to our attention so that we can see where we are. And I tell you, fellas, from everything I've seen over the past 5 years, we are so close to the tribulation period starting, it ain't funny, according to Scripture and descriptions of what is happening. And it's just, man, I'm excited. I'm not dreadful. I'm not fearful. If they shoot me, hey, where am I going? I'm going to heaven. So long. I'm glad to go. I'm waiting.
Well, we're going home. Right. We're going home. Yes.
And while we're here, our job is to reach out to people and try to help them. And one of the things that God told me my particular ministry would be, one of Satan's biggest lies and biggest tools, I feel, has been denominations, because it divides. I know growing up, I know of Baptist people and Methodist people actually getting into fist fights over Scripture, stuff like that. And, in the Bible, when they called out the churches, they said the church in Philadelphia, the church in Thessalonica, and on and on. They didn't say the Baptist church or the Methodist church or the Nazarene church or so on and so forth. And I've been to almost every one of the denominational churches growing up and during my time of preaching. And part of my calling is to help bridge the gap between the denominations and the colors. I actually got my license in Northwest Alabama, where it's still blacks and whites, still kind of separate.
Right, there's segregation that exists. Yeah, well, we know that.
But I got my license
if not overtly, covertly. Yeah. Go ahead.
Where my and I were the only white people there, so that tells you how prejudiced I am. I'm not at all. But, in these times, the power of prayer is amazing. When you start interceding for someone else, just like those guys that were in the basement of the church praying for that doctor, they didn't know exactly who he was.
Right.
But praying for him brought about God's protection around him and sent their angels. And, when we start praying for each other honestly, openly, and praying for our enemies, that they would be saved with an honest, open heart to God, mighty things happen. Things happen in the spiritual that you would never expect.
They do indeed. Mm-hmm. Caller, thank you. I mean, thank you for your words of wisdom, because marvelous. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You really did.
Well, one thing I'd like to do before I go is pray for you guys.
Sure.
And just ask God's blessing. Heavenly Father, I pray right now for Doug and Joe. I pray for their ministry that you've given them for this show. Father, guide them, teach them, give them wisdom as to what to discuss and what not, and when, and who to invite on and who not. Father, I ask that your angels would be sent out and sent down to form a wall of protection about them and their families, Father. Father, in the name of Jesus, I ask that happen right now, that you put that hedge of protection around Doug and Joe and their family, that no harm can come to them in any way, shape, or form, and that they might be able to do the ministry that you've called them to do, and do it without any obstructions. Father, I ask that you keep all the technical equipment in shape, and divine intervention on anyone trying to disrupt it. Father, I ask protection on them. Father, right now in the name of Jesus, I thank you for all that you're going to do for Doug and Joe and for the people listening to them and learning. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. God bless you, caller. And for every caller, the divine protection for every caller, or for every listener. and caller, and for everyone that we are able to touch, whether we know it or not. Thank you so much, my friend. God bless you.
You have a great night. Thank you.
Joe, I want to just, God bless, I want to touch something here.
All right, and then when you're done, we're going to try to go through phone calls. We have a lot of phone calls, so we're going to go through them real quick if we can.
Yeah, real quick. Renee just sent this to me. God bless you, Renee. She said, "Dear Doug, one caller on your show tonight said that we'll be taken up not to worry about what we'll say. The words will be given us to us by the Lord. The statement, however, is just one possibility. The Lord in the Gospels tell us to flee when we are persecuted. Also consider John the Baptist and the apostles, for instance. When government asks us to do something evil, are we to obey? Well, you know the answer. I think we need to learn to hear the Lord's voice and simply obey. God has a specific plan for each one of us." Thank you, Renee, for sending that.
That's right. And we're going to go to Vernon now. Vernon, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
God bless everyone. Joe, Doug, you had some powerful callers that called in today. And I just have to add my little 2 cents, if I may. It's true that we are in a spiritual war. But that spiritual war has actually spilled into the physical. Now, the God that I know has, and I'm not saying this to anybody out there, don't get me wrong, but God has no cowards in his army, and God has an army, be it in the spiritual and in the physical. If we go back in the scripture and take out characters of that scripture out of the Bible, we can go to David. He was a warlord. We can go to Moses. Moses was trained as a warlord. He built armies. We can go to Samson. He was a warlord. You have many warlords that were God-fearing men out of the Bible. There's a scripture says that there's a season for everything. And there's a season for peace, and there's a season for war. The administration has brought a war to the American people. Yes, men are supposed to pray and not faint. But by the same token, we're to take up our arms. We're to protect our families. We're to protect one another. Now, some other things I was hearing I have to speak on, because he who speaks the loudest, they're not going to do anything. Those that do the damage are the ones that you very rarely hear from. Those are the ones you worry about. There is a war coming to the America. Now, as a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you know me, Doug and Joe, as believing in pre-trib, I believe that the church is going to be out of here before all of that because of what is taking place right now. They're talking about peace in the Middle East, forcing Israel to give up God's land. And before that happened, the church is gone. We're out of here. Another thing to look at, the United States is not mentioned nowhere as far as a war in the Middle East when it comes to Israel at that point in time. That means one of three things. One, we're not here because we've been utterly destroyed. Two, we have been rendered useless. And three, or we have so much of an internal problem that we can't respond. One of the three things. And what is brewing right now, we're going to have such an internal problem in this country. Even if Obama wanted to help Benjamin Netanyahu, which it don't look that way, we won't even be able to respond because we're going to be busy dealing with what's happening in this country right here.
Yeah. And just for people who don't know, they're out of the Times of Israel, the EU is reportedly to offer new Middle East peace plan for a two-state solution to force Israel into a corner.
Bottom line, they want to give God's land up. God's not going to have that.
That's right.
And we're going be removed out the situation.
Well, it's often said that Israel's God's timepiece, isn't it?
Yes, that is the clock.
Yep. And
that's scripture. See these things begin to happen, then look up for your redemption. Oh, hallelujah! Your redemption draweth nigh. We're there. We are there. All we have to do is look up. Now, why do we keep on talking about the gun ban and all these? Because you and I are believers in the Lord Jesus Christ. We're going to be gone. But we still have loved ones. We still have friends. A prophet, what they say, a prophet is without honor in his own home. We're going to have loved ones that is left behind that we tried to talk to. So we're trying to make it better for them as much as possible. We're trying to alert them. Well, look, if you don't accept Christ, then look for these signs. When you see that the rapture takes place, look for this. Look for this man to come out there committing what seem to be miracles. Look for the man that leads the nation of Israel to a peace table. Look for, the unholy trinity. Look for the one world order, the one world government, the one world church, the one world economic system. Don't take the mark of the beast. That's why we talk about these things. To let those that are behind know this is your last opportunity.
Very good. Very good.
But for the believer, it don't mean nothing. We're not going to be here.
And people debate that, and I don't have the answer. I'm here to do what I'm here to do, and whatever happens, happens, and I'm okay with it, and we'll leave it at that. Right. And God bless you, Vernon. Thanks for your call. Vernon has a show.
Yeah. God bless all. I'm posting the last show in the room because I had a gentleman on that ex-Marine, 25 years. He's an NRA instructor down in Quantico, Virginia. They have their own place, and I'll just post everything in the room. And we had a good discussion last Thursday, and I think I'm going to try to continue that discussion. I'm going to contact them in light of what's going on right now. So God bless everyone, and just keep looking up. The scripture does say this. When you see these things begin to happen, let not your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid. For these things must happen. They must come to pass. God bless all.
Amen. Thanks, Vernon. All right, we're going to move right along here. Let's see. We're going to go to, and I'm sorry I went out of place, area code 413. You're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Oh, my goodness. Hi, Doug and Joe. Doug, your words earlier tonight when you opened the show, they really were an encouragement to me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
I'm in the Mark 13 camp. I'm a woman, and it's been mostly men that you've taken tonight for calls. Just that's how it worked out. And maybe women and men think a little bit differently, but maybe not so much so when you're a Christian. I value my relationship with God more than I do my flesh, and I certainly love my family. I would die for them, but I would die to the flesh in order to have that everlasting relationship with God and to be with God. Absent from the body is present with the Lord. So, but the reason why I called tonight is because about 6 years ago, I had a dream, and it stayed with me all this time. And over the past 6 months or so, I think it's clear now to me personally that it was a vision of what's coming. And in the dream, there were two bears, and I was laying in the sun, and the bears were on a deck. One was below the deck, and one was on the deck, sunning with me and enjoying the sun. But the other bear was ready to attack, and I think that probably has to do with, I don't know, Russia.
Wow.
I don't know.
It could. It could.
But it could. You know, I'm not as good at interpreting the dream, and I know it has significance, but as the dream progressed, I had a choice to make. I wasn't the least bit concerned about the one bear that was laying next to me and sunning, but I became more concerned about the one below that looked like it was ready to attack. So I had a choice to make. There were two doors. One was close to me, but it was to my left, and the other was down a long deck corridor, and so I proceeded slowly along a narrow corridor, very carefully, and into that door, and inside the room was and this is the symbology that I don't really quite understand. There was an old woman in an Afghan and a young child sitting below, and there were three men rushing through the house, sort of like they were searching something. They didn't find anything, but I was looking at the situation in my dream. I wasn't in the dream. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And they just proceeded through the house and out the door, and it was very disconcerting. They were definitely not American. That's it. That's the end of the dream.
Huh. Okay.
And you're not alone. Many people have had similar dreams. They're varying to different degrees, but basically the same thing, that there is trouble coming upon this land, and we will surely see it.
Right. So I just wanted to share that with, I haven't really told anybody about this dream. It's just been in my mind it was in September of 2006, just before my grandson was born. And so, I don't know, September of 2006, 7 years is the order of completion. So this September would be 7 years. I don't know. I just...
Well, it's certainly an interesting, and we're seeing more and more people with dreams, visions, and the more spiritually in tuned are coming forward and saying, this is taking place, and we want to thank you for sharing that, because who knows who knows if that might strike a chord among someone else.
Right. Yeah, that's why I called you guys tonight. I decided that I was going to go ahead and share that, but I will say that in the dream, the woman wasn't harmed and the child wasn't harmed.
Huh.
But that besides all that, spiritually, I just, if you're a Christian, you're on the solid ground. We've already got the victory. My heart really goes out to men, because they want to fight and protect the fit, and women do too. But my heart just breaks for the kind of things that in the flesh we have to fight right now, because it really is a spiritual thing.
It is.
Ultimately.
It is. Yes, it is. You're absolutely right.
I'm going to move on, and you guys can take some more calls.
God bless you. Thank you for sharing that dream with us.
God bless you.
Man, that's and folks, think about what she said and compare that to perhaps you folks might have had a dream or a vision a long time ago, or even weeks ago, days ago. Who knows? But it's something to consider. That's something, Joe.
Yeah, I've had a reoccurring dream of anarchy in the streets. Never thought anything of it, but it seems to be happening. We're going to go to area code 305. I think this is Pam. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey,
Hi.
kiddo, how are you, kiddo?
Okay. Well, I really feel blessed by the pastor that called in a couple of phone calls ago.
Wasn't that
with
great?
The prayer and the story, about how the people were praying for the doctor, and their prayers gave him cover, gave him protection. And the girl just called in now. The dream where she had with the women with the Afghan and the child and the soldiers going through the house, but they didn't find her. And it was like the Afghan represented cover. She was covered in protection. She was shielded.
Yes.
And just like there was the shielding for the doctor. So, I think really that's the key here, is we have to stay covered in the blood of the Lamb. We have to be covered by the Lord. That's the protection. I know that people have weapons to protect for if marauders come to the house to harm the family. But I really think that you can legitimately protect your family if there's terror coming into your household. But to take up arms first, I don't think that's the way. I think to stay under the cover of the Lord is the way, and let yourself be led by that. And I guess
I
that's
think
what
they
I
work.
wanted to say.
Thank you very much, and I do believe they work hand in hand. But your point is well taken. I wanted to say God bless you for the call.
I think we really need to all pray for each other. We need to be in prayer all the time, even when we're working. It doesn't have to be anything other than, Father, just shield everybody with your protection. Let everybody be covered by the blood of the Lamb. Seek protection, because there really, like Nathan Leal said the other night, there really is evil coming into the land, and there is something really, really creepy going on with that White House. And
very much, yes.
There's all these dimensions that we can't really seem to see, but we're all feeling it. Okay, you can. It's tangible almost at this point. You can feel it, and
yes.
We just really need to stay shielded with the cover of the Lord's blessing. I mean, you just pray for the blessing of protection for everybody.
Right on.
And
exactly.
I thank you for what you guys do, and I thank everybody in the community that's listening here in 40 countries or more, that we're just all trying to hold each other up and praying for protection.
Exactly, and that tells us it's more than an American thing. It's a spiritual issue. It's a God issue, because 40 countries,
right.
It's not just about America. It's about the freedom of every human being and the rights.
It's about humanity. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so key. Whether you're listening in Germany or the UK or Australia or New Zealand, wherever you're listening from, look, you're all part of this. You're all part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Pam, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the call, Pam. Have a great night.
Good
Thanks.
job.
Night.
Good night.
All right, moving right along. Area code 347. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello?
That's you. You're up.
Okay, yeah, God bless you guys. I want to thank you for your ministry. Thank you for being the watchman on the wall for all of us, because you're giving us the real news. I'm a retired New York police officer, so I do want to say that, I live in New York City. I was able to see David Wilkerson's church, Times Square Church, and I don't go there, but I remember his vision, that he saw fire, he saw unrest in New York City, So I think these things are going to come to pass, not only because of him, because of all the men of God, all the people that have had dreams and visions. They've seen these things come to pass. So I think that this is going to happen, regardless whether we want it to happen or not happen. It's going to happen because God has already ordained it to happen. So,
right.
I'm not, I remember 9/11. I was there. I worked at the police. Like I said, I retired from the U.S. Police Department. And 9/11, I thought that would never happen, and that happened. And I was looking at conspiracy stuff. Now I know that didn't happen. I think that was planned. That's my personal opinion. But it's just that these things got allowed to happen, just like Obama's re-election. Some things that are out of our control. And I think we just need to be steadfast in prayer, and not worry about the stuff. I have my gun, but what am I going to do? I live in a multi-dwelling place. When chaos hits New York City, and people start going to the supermarket and rioting. I've been to 2 riots. It doesn't take too much for people to riot. I've been to the Brooklyn riots when the kid got hit by the Jewish ambulance. I've been to the Washington Heights riots when they shot a drug dealer. So it doesn't take too much. I don't think it only a little spark of something to cause chaos. And we need just to be alert. We need to be prayerful. I personally, I have my gun, but I'll protect my family like most people say they would do. But, like the other sister and the other brother says, God will put into your heart what you want you to do. God has protected me when just for a simple ride going to work, I was going to hit a deer, and the Lord spoke to my ears and said, stop, a deer's coming out. So God will spare you. God is holy and righteous. If you are in His will, He's going to send His angel to watch over you. That's why He said, the Scripture says that He will camp His angel around you. And we should not be fearful of what's going to happen. We should be prayerful. We should be alert and not panic. But we're not supposed to panic. We have the Lord of hosts, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. We're not supposed to be worried.
Right. That's exactly right.
And I've seen chaos in New York City. It's not pretty. It doesn't take too much for people to go rioting. It doesn't take long. It's one simple protest and things get out of control.
Do you see this from based on your experience? Do you see this happening sooner rather than later?
It's definitely going to happen. There's no doubt about it. But it's definitely going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's going to be nothing big. It's going to start small. People always think something big is going to happen to cause mass chaos. It's never something big that causes chaos. Something small that starts. I believe that World War III will start something small and get bigger.
Okay.
I may be the minority on that, but I think that's the way it's going to happen.
Well, I think the fuse for World War III, since you brought that up, has already been lit. I think that the key there is the Benghazi-Syria connection. But in the States here, I think that I think you're right, because the small things do trigger the bigger things. And isn't it funny that we don't look? Everyone's looking for this big, massive thing to happen. Mm-hmm. And boy, something small happens, and then it builds and it builds and it grows and kind of comes out of left field. It's not what we're looking for, and then it takes us by surprise.
I actually think, brothers, I actually think you guys, like I said, I really love your show, but I think something like, an economic collapse, I think, let's put it this way. I'm not trying to be prejudiced. My wife's a Mexican, and I try to get her paper, she can't get it. But if you, that's what I want to point this out, because if you cut off welfare, if Medicaid or welfare gets cut off, and all these people don't have no money to feed their family, you think that's just going to be New York City? That's going to be statewide. It's going to be worldwide, especially in the United States.
Right.
People in the streets. So something simple like that, an economic collapse, boom.
You're right. You're exactly right. Everyone's going to be in the same boat, and it's going to be, people are just going to be at different levels in the same boat. That's all.
Yeah, and you know what? One more thing before. I remember when I retired in 2008. That's when the economic collapsed. I was very fortunate. I lost money on my 457K, which is the same thing as a 401K. But I lost money, but I was fortunate that I was able to take somebody out. But I lost thousands of dollars. Can you imagine everybody losing their pensions, and there's no money to come in for the families to feed them? So it seems something like this could happen. If New York City goes bankrupt, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be an economic collapse. How about if California goes bankrupt? How about if New York City goes bankrupt? It could be states going bankrupt, and that causes massive unrest.
Right. And we're starting to see that. Thank you.
We're going to see. We're probably going to see that. But anyway, I love your show. Keep up the good work. God bless you both. May the Lord angels encamp around you and protect you, and let His light shine upon you. God bless you. I love you.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless you too.
Wonderful call.
All right, let's see if we can get at least two more calls on area code 574.
Let's be
live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
I want to respond to all of these guys. I'm a Christian. I'm born again. I'm saved. I attend my church regularly. I read my Bible. I was just reading the book of Enoch before your show came on.
Okay.
My Jesus was a very peaceful man. But my Jesus also drew the line in the sand, picked up a stick, walked into the temple of the Lord, and started clocking people. My God has sent His armies in battle array to drive the evil from the Holy Lands. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? When Moses and the people got to the river, they went over and said, oh, there's giants in the land. And in fear, they hesitated. But one went across and took his men with him. And he won. If you fight for God, God will fight for you. But you have to pick up and move. You can't just, you can pray for a job, but if you don't go look, you ain't going to find one. God will give you the job if you go look. God will give you the victory if you go fight.
Exactly.
In World War II, there was a statement amongst many of the people that we consider the greatest generation. Now is the time for all men to come to the aid of their country. 230-some years ago, some men sat down and penned a document that they put in there was done by divine providence. God enlightened those men to put those various amendments and things to the Constitution, like our right to keep arms, because He knew this day was coming. We need to take these enlightened documents, put your Bible in your hand, put your rifle in your hand, choose a side, make a stand. This is it. This is where we draw the line. Now, I'm not suggesting that we overthrow our government, by no means. I'm suggesting we remove the people from government that are violating our Constitution, that are throwing our God out of everything, contrary to all of the arguments that people make. The gentleman that founded this nation founded it upon Christianity and the Bible. Follow God. That is why this nation has been so successful for so long. But now we've sat back and we've quietly watched and prayed, but done nothing. God doesn't help those necessarily who can't help themselves. He helps those that try. You get up and move. You make a lot happen. God, the Bible tells us, if you take a step to God, He'll run to you.
You know what, Cole? Well, let me just interject something here, and this is what I've been saying all along. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. The people who are calling, we're talking about the spiritual guidance in addition to the practical fight that we have to engage. Every man or woman alive today, right now, if you're listening to this program, you better choose which side you're on, God's or Satan's, because there is no rationalizing or escaping that choice. There is no middle ground, and every one of us better discern between the false prophets and the true prophets, and we better ask God for His wisdom through His Word and His Spirit for the answers, and we better act accordingly, and we better do what He tells us to do. And I got to tell you, caller, I think see, when people call in and say, well, they're not advocating doing nothing. They're advocating doing it in the spirit, and I think that sometimes it comes through the wrong way. So I just want to make that clear.
Well,
but
right, and I agree on both sides. The prayers of a righteous man availeth much. If you can't fight, if you're old, or whatever the situation is that prevents you from being able to physically fight, then those become the prayer battalions.
Right.
Battalions of people that can stand and pray for the ones that can fight. It says, make no place for the devil. Well, let's take that land back 1 inch at a time, because every inch we take is 1 inch less he's got. Let's cast him from our land. This is our land. God gave this to us. Be willing to fight for it, or what good is it to have?
Amen, caller. We're going to move on. We're going to try to get to one more call.
Thank you. You're my star caller. Thank you.
Area code 304. One more call. All right.
Sorry. Talking over here.
304. You're live on the Hagmann Report.
Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We just pushed the button for you. Go ahead.
Okay, I just pushed mine too. Listen, I've heard, by the way, guys, awesome show, and I like the callers who called in. But I've got one thing that I've been hearing consistently, and Doug, you just hit on it. You said some want to use the Spirit, absolutely, right? Some are willing to fight, right? Some want to pray. Some would rather shoot. But I challenge everyone to do this. Take yourself out of the equation. Don't think of yourself, because I can tell you 3 errors I heard in the conversation. Number one, people had prayed, but guess what? They prayed for something they wanted, not for God's will to happen. That's the first mistake, right? Because the Lord said when He didn't answer when He does not answer a prayer, it's not an answer because we asked amiss to consume it upon our lives. In other words, it is for something we wanted, something that was in our will. And it may not be in His will. That's the first one. Number 2, there are a lot of people in the chat room that say, live by the sword, die by the sword. Well, we all know a sword is to attack someone, right? So if we go out and start murdering people, then we know we're going to be murdered. Whatever weapon we use to inflict harm upon another is going to be used against us. It does not mean defend yourself. And then the third one is this. In the Old Testament, yes, people went out and conquered many, many people. But why did they do it? I'll tell you why. They did it because they were in the way of God's chosen people. Now, we have that one defense here. This country, I'm not speaking about everybody, but our leaders are in the way of God's people. We are the reason this thing has gone on this long. And this is waking us up. Will there be some that will have to defend their families? You bet. They're going to be forced to do it. They shouldn't be blind to that fact. I don't subscribe to the fact that they're going to be yanked out, because a lot of people think that, yes, I'm going to escape this trouble. Well, you may, because you may die early. But in the Bible it says at the last trump, there are 7 trumpets. At the last one we go. Not before all that. And then it even concludes that. It says that there was a sea of glass and a countless number of people on there, and he asked, who are these people? These are those who made it through great tribulation. It kind of sounds like that.
And we're blessed by that. Every tribulation we go through,
90 seconds.
we become blessed even more so. Yes.
That's right. Now, as far as
Caller, we're at the end of the show, and I apologize. We're at the end of the show. I just want to say that, man, you hit on the 3 points that needed to be hit on, and caller, if you believe, and I know you don't, but people who believe that they were born by random chance or accident, look, God knew you before the foundation of this world. You were chosen to be born for a time as this. And folks, and caller and everyone listening to this, you're either going to live under the rule of God where there is liberty, or you're going to live under the rule of fear. And Satan uses that fear system that pyramid system of such to rule by fear and control us. And we must throw out the chains of fear, look to the future with faith. Caller, thank you. Callers, thank you.
And everyone who listened, God bless. all of you. And we'll see you here tomorrow. We can even pick up this debate where we left off and this talk where we left off, because I don't think this is going anywhere.
Not soon.
You guys have a great and blessed night. We'll see you here tomorrow.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.